Good morning, Raptor Freaks. Lexi Out's here, and it's Saturday, so we're doing a Saturday Share the Love Club. And I feel like we need to share some love for somebody who's been maligned and misrepresented. And also, you know, it's annoying, man. I don't like people trying to mess with our history. I understand Isaiah Thomas can be an abrasive person. Understand that Isaiah Thomas can be somebody who's very driven and in situations he could rub people the wrong way because he's the kind of person that likes to get things done. He comes from the school of Indiana where he was taught under Bobby Knight, and Bobby Knight was a certain kind of way. And well, Isaiah went through the ringer with him. In some ways, with all the complaints about the young generation in the NBA, well, if they had Bobby Knight, they wouldn't be the way they are. Trust me. Trust me. Isaiah Thomas went to Indiana University, and he was under the tutelage of Coach Bobby Knight, who may be the most extreme example of old school coaching mentality and toughness and abusiveness, to be honest. And Isaiah went through the fire with him and came out on the other side as one of his most highly regarded, honored, and respected pupils in his history of coaching. Bobby Knight loves Isaiah. He did love him. And that says a lot about Isaiah Thomas, is what he went through the hard stuff that Bobby Knight put in front of him as a coach and came out better for it. So today we're going to share the love for Isaiah Thomas, the original team president of the Toronto Raptors in this 30th anniversary season. It'd be remiss to not mention the importance of Isaiah Thomas early in this franchise's history, and in some ways the reverberations of him throughout the whole 30 years of why he was important early and why we should be sharing the love for him instead of maligning him and putting out bullshit like Sportsnet did this week about who Isaiah was, what his role was early on, and why he left, and why things happened the way they did, because they're kind of in some ways not telling the whole story, and they're also in some ways trying to paint Isaiah as the bad guy. And no. Isaiah was one of the most important people to the Raptors franchise immediately in the very first year. And you know what? The Raptors may not exist today. Some people say the Raptors wouldn't be around without Vince Carter. That may be somewhat true, but it definitely wouldn't have been around without Isaiah Thomas in his early parts of making us bona fide and have given us respect. So I'm going to give respect back to old Zeke today. And I hope Isaiah knows that there are Raptors fans out there that do not believe this bullshit, that are not against you. And in fact, in hindsight, when all the information comes out decades later, we're on your side, my guy. And we kind of see the bullshit of how you got treated and why you had to leave. And I'm not blaming you, man, because honestly, promises were made and a whole thing was sold to you about coming to our country to run our team. And well, these assholes turned it on you, and they did not give you what you wanted eventually. So yeah, Sportsnet, you may be trying to rewrite history right now with your documentary series right now, but we can see through the bullshit. We can see exactly how Isaiah was treated wrong by Alan Slate, Labatt, Steve Stavro, and MLSC and all that. And honestly, you guys can try and write it as he being the problem, but nah, we know who it is. It was Richard Petty, and it was the other people coming in to replace him that were the issues, and they were the idiots that caused problems. Some people may blame Isaiah for leaving us high and dry and leaving us in a bad place. Well, this is what happens when non-NBA people come in and take jobs from NBA people that know what they're doing, and then all of a sudden non-NBA people are doing the jobs in the Raptors franchise, and we get some dysfunction and stupid moves. In some ways, we can look at the mirror across the country in Grizzlies land with Stu Jackson and the Vancouver team and just how badly managed they were the whole entire time they were in that province, because they were managed horribly. Draft picks missed left and right. The expansion draft, a complete bust. All kinds of messed up stuff that they did messing around with their franchise. Well, Isaiah wasn't messing around, and he was hitting home runs with his draft picks and the way he was building our team. I tell you, if you look a little deeper, a lot of the little moves that he made, besides the big 3 draft picks that he made, Damon Stoudemire, Marcus Camby, and Tracy McGrady, he was doing really good moves on the down low also, if you really investigate the tenure of Isaiah. Now, I'm not going to rehash completely my rant yesterday against Sportsnet for their portrayal of Isaiah Thomas in this first edition of the Raptors history, the birth. No, I'm going to talk more about his history as a person and his real life, his life leading up to being who he was to come and take the team president job of the Raptors in 1995. Isaiah Thomas was born in Chicago, Illinois. As a young man, he loved to play basketball. His father, well, he left their family when he was very, very young, and Isaiah found solace in it. He did not come from a wealthy background. He came from the inner city of Chicago, and he had to fight his way out. And in some ways, that's something that's totally different than some of the players that are coming up these days and how they get treated as far as AAU and coddling and all this kind of stuff. So he went through the school of hard knocks to get to where he got to his NBA career, including going to Indiana University and going and playing for Bobby Knight, a taskmaster, an abusive man who threw chairs and cussed at his players and did not have the tact of today's society and how you're supposed to treat people. No, this man was crazy. This man was abusive, and this man was very, very mean. And a softer person would take their ball and go home after dealing with Bobby Knight. But no, Isaiah took the challenge, and he met it with excellence. And then even rose and took the Indiana University to heights with winning because of going through the ringer with Bobby Knight. So success was there with Isaiah in Indiana immediately when he was a college player. And then he came in the NBA and he went to the Detroit Pistons, a team that had a player named Bill Laimbeer already on it and became the Bad Boys. In some ways, he brought a grittiness and a toughness to a league that was honestly very physical at that time. And, Isaiah was one of the smallest players on the court almost at all times during his NBA career. It was very, very rare that there was a smaller guy on the court, maybe Michael Adams, maybe Spud Webb, maybe Tyrone Muggsy Bogues. But for the most part, when Isaiah Thomas was on the court, he was the smallest person on the court. But on many of those nights, he was the best player of the court still. And that's the thing that people need to realize and respect about this guy, is that he found ways to score with hitting shots from the outside and attacking the rim and making very acrobatic shots, sacrificing his body on the regular, taking huge hits from much larger men and getting put on the floor, but still making that and one and laying the ball in. People have to realize who he is, that he thrived and he was a league leader in stats for assists and points almost every single year, even though he was 6'1" and one of the smallest players in this league. I'm telling you, we need to put respect on him. And he was very successful in his NBA career. He started going to the playoffs in the 80s, and he did not miss the playoffs for like almost 10 years, including the back-to-back championships of the Bad Boys in 1989 and 1990. He was the true leader of this team. There were other players on this team that were important. Sure, Bill Laimbeer, Joe Dumars, Mark Aguirre, James Edwards. Yeah, Dennis Rodman and John Sally as backups off the bench in forward positions. But Isaiah was always the team captain. He was always the number one. He was always the leader of that team that led them. And for the 80s, they battled teams like Dominique Wilkins' Atlanta Hawks, Larry Bird's Boston Celtics, Magic Johnson's Lakers, and of course, Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls. And this team was successful at overcoming all of them at a certain point. All of those teams bowed down to the great and mighty Bad Boys Pistons in the 80s, whether it was Neek and Spud and Moses Malone on the Hawks, whether it was Larry Bird, Big Chief, and Kevin McHale on the Big Green Machine, the Boston Celtics, whether it was Kareem and Magic and Byron Scott and James Worthy in the finals against the Pistons, winning their first championship, dethroning Showtime in their first championship, beating Magic and them. Yeah. And then the next year, beating the Portland Trailblazers in the finals after taking out the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Horace Grant 2 years in a row in the playoffs. Michael Jordan never became Michael Jordan until he had to defeat the bad boys and learn how to beat Joe Dumars and Isaiah Thomas and Dennis Rodman and John Sally and Vinnie Johnson. Yeah, yeah. And people need to remember that. Now, when the Bulls finally did beat the Pistons, that was the time that they were done. But that run was amazing. How long did they stay in the top in the Eastern Conference? How long did they have that king spot? Well, quite a while. Sadly, Isaiah, a few years after the championships, would have ankle problems, very serious ankle problems that threatened his career and actually ended it early and prematurely. And well, Isaiah was fresh from retiring and he got an offer to come to Toronto. Yeah, and he took it. He saw an opportunity to get into ownership, something that was very foreign at that time. Players, former players being involved in ownership. This club was not open to anybody at that time. Really, it wasn't. And we show that even though it was open to him in theory, an idea and proposal, it really wasn't open to him a couple years in Toronto because the door was shut on him by that very rich white club called the NBA owners at that time. Yeah, I mean, I can't get mad at him. If y'all are mad at Isaiah for his exit, the way he left and all the confusion and the way he left our team, you got to get the whole story because honestly, they're portraying it in all kinds of different weird ways and understand he had the best of intentions. He did things right. He fulfilled his part of the bargain as far as bringing his reputation, his prestige, and helping us become bona fide at the very beginning of our franchise's birth. And in some ways, he did the job as the GM and the president of the team exemplary also. So I can't get behind the people that are trying to smear Isaiah Thomas's name right now on Rogers Sportsnet. I cannot get behind that. In fact, this is my counter attack, is to share the love for Isaiah, a man that honestly doesn't deserve all this. He's a man who dares, a man who has done many different ventures in his life since his post-playing career. And I can't get mad at him for trying to buy the CBA and do what he did. I can't get mad at him for coaching the Indiana Pacers. I can't get mad at him for his work with the New York Knicks. I can't get mad at him for his broadcasting, which has been exemplary for that. That may be his most successful thing he's done since his playing career. And the Raptors, I'm going to say that because he's still doing it and he's still at the top of his field as far as breaking down the X's and O's and being a television commentator. He's still doing it. So, he's easy lightning rod. Some people just don't like his personality. Some people he rubs the wrong way and they like, yeah, I don't like him. Some people are loyalists to Michael. And they just say, I just don't like Isaiah because Michael hates him. I get that. Michael Jordan was the most popular player in the NBA. And in some ways, Isaiah was the dark shadow a counterpart to him. And a lot of people did not respect Isaiah during his career or after his career, partly because of the way his interaction with Michael Jordan was in certain ways. Some ways, Isaiah is not perfect. He's not a perfect human being. He can shoot off his mouth. He can get involved in things publicly in the media, and it makes him look bad. But honestly, this is just a man who's been honest and true and outspoken. And in some ways, not everybody's for everybody. And I'm for Isaiah because I get him. I identify with him. And I think that Isaiah Thomas is not getting his due respect because too many people are forgetting about what he did in the league as a player, what he did in his life, coming from the inner city and nothing to get to the point that he's at, and everything that he's done after his playing career. Sure, it hasn't all been successful, but at least he tried. At least he dared to do some of those things. And you know what? He's better for it, even if he wasn't totally successful in doing that. So, yeah, I share the love for Isaiah Thomas today. And I want y'all to write in what you feel about Isaiah today in the Share the Love Club. Talk about maybe memories you have from his career playing or post-career, anything you want. You can say something negative about him. We'll talk about it because I know some people have concerns about him in different ways, Sure, he may not have been totally nice to the press at times. And, well, the press wrote bad things about him because they were annoyed with him or they didn't like him. There's all kinds of different ways things are. Maybe he wasn't totally the on up and up businessman that told you to your face and maybe stabbed you in the back behind the back. But hey, isn't everybody in business like that? Isn't that? Maybe that was the action that he had to learn quickly in the surviving of the executive part of sports. You know, there's all kinds of different ways you can look at it. Perception can be reality, but in some ways, in the end, reality is reality. And the reality is, this is a Hall of Famer, an Olympian, and somebody who was great. You know, it's interesting how Isaiah got the job with the Raptors. In some ways, it was because of the FIBA World Championships that were held at Skydome in 1994. Isaiah Thomas was there on the team for USA, a kind of makeup for being missed out on the dream team, getting blackballed from being able to go to Barcelona and be on that team with them. That team he totally fit on. You think about that team that went to Barcelona with Magic, Michael, Larry, Chris Mullin, Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, Scottie Pippen, John Stockton, Karl Malone, Christian Laettner. Yeah, you think about that team and tell me that Isaiah Thomas didn't belong to go to Barcelona. Yeah, he did. You know he did. So the makeup was he got to go to Toronto and play for Team USA with Shaquille O'Neal and Akeem Olajuwon and a bunch of other greats at that time, Gary Payton, people like that. Now, it was annoying because Isaiah was hurt by then. His career-ending injuries had already started, and he could not perform or play for the team, even though he was there on the team in name. But he was there, and maybe he was there talking to people. And maybe the seedlings and the genesis of him becoming the first ever team president for the Toronto Raptors started at that time. John Batove Jr. talking to him specifically, because John went to Indiana just like Isaiah, and that connection was strong. The same connection that would bring Glenn Grunwald to run our team early on, the same connection that would bring Butch Carter to come and coach our team also, Indiana University, the university where all these men played under the great, crazy Bobby Knight. Yeah, I'm telling you, man, we need to tell the whole story on Isaiah and not just let the Roger Sportnet drag his name through the mud like they did this week on their 45-minute documentary that came out on Thursday. Yeah. I can't abide by this. I cannot stand by and let them talk about the great Isaiah Thomas without telling the whole story and talking about what happened with him with the Raptors. I'm proud of Isaiah's role in the Raptors' history. I don't look at him as somebody that's a pariah. I don't look at him as a failure. I don't look at him as someone who did us wrong. In some ways, I get why things went the way they did. And if we really, really think about that time period in the Raptors' history, you know, it was messed up. And there was a power struggle for who's going to be in charge and owning and running this team. And certain people that started the team, that created the team, that had the best intentions for the team, the people that had the passion and made the team unique and interesting were forced out. John Batove Jr. and Isaiah Thomas by people that didn't know basketball, people that just wanted money, people that just wanted to get on that cash cow and didn't know what the fuck they were doing. So they kicked out the people that did know what they were doing. And then they told everybody, oh, they didn't know what they were doing. They weren't very good businessmen. They messed up. Well, maybe they didn't read the fine print and y'all screwed them over with your contracts and ownership and how you did them wrong in those kind of ways. I can't get mad at them for that. Yeah. You know, some of the best business plans in the world, some of the most genius people write their business plans on napkins, Richard Petty. So you shut the fuck up with your snooty attitude about, oh, Isaiah wasn't a businessman. He couldn't do anything. He couldn't do anything right. And it was evidenced by his later career. Shut the fuck up, Richard Petty. Like you ran MLSC or the Raptors any kind of right way the whole time you were there. It was a failure for the most part. And you don't get credit for the Vince Carter early years with the playoffs and getting their first playoff victory with Alvin Williams and all that. You don't get that credit because Glenn Grunwald was running the team. And in some ways, those were the roots that Isaiah Thomas established and had nothing to do with you showing up, you jabroni. Yeah, nothing to do with you, Dick Petty. Yeah, you petty dick. Yeah, there you go. Here we go. Let's go to the chat and see what y'all are saying. I got to react to a 905 loss in overtime and the Elam ending. And also we got all the other stuff, the Instagram stories and the classic car. Let's go, Raptors freaks. Yeah, let's celebrate. Isaiah Thomas. Let's go, Zeke. Yeah, I love him so much. And I'm serious. I loved him when I was a kid. I was a little kid in elementary school running around with an Isaiah Thomas t-shirt before the Raptors existed, 10 years before. So I come by this honestly. I have been an Isaiah fan since I was a little kid. Detroit Pistons were my favorite team, first favorite team in the NBA before the Raptors existed. And I was a huge Bad Boys fan. And I am very, very familiar with those years of those battles against the Celtics, the Bulls, and the Lakers. Yeah. And the Hawks. Yeah. I'm very familiar with that era of the NBA because it's when I first started becoming an NBA fan. Yeah, so we can talk about this. Trevor J's first in, Commissioner of Fun. Trevor J, good morning to you, sir. His words of wisdom are, remember, this selfish people don't care about you unless you're doing something for them. Yeah, it's weird, man. I'm really learned this year, energy will tell you everything. And sometimes people do nice things for you, but if there's energy is off or weird, you should take note of that and understand that. And there has been some people I've interacted with this year where the energy just ain't right. Like their intentions aren't exactly what they're presenting. That they have intentions that are alternative than what they're telling me. And they don't want to tell me what their true intentions are. Well, I'm going to start trusting vibes and start trusting energy because there are people out there that will act like they're unselfish, that are really selfish on the down low, and you have even no idea why they're being selfish. It's a weird thing, Trevor. Thank you for your words of wisdom. Yeah, it's the thing. The people that do things for people that cannot do anything for them, those are the true saints. Those are the true people in society that are valued and amazing and just awesome. The people that go out of their way to help other people and they don't get any gain from it. They don't have anything that they get from it. They just do it because it's the right thing to do. And they don't want anything in return for it. Those are the real ones. Those are the unselfish ones. And those are the people that are amazing. And Trevor J is like that for this channel. He doesn't want anything from me. He just wants to do nice things to help me out. And I appreciate that from Trevor because he's a real one like that. He really is. Trevor's saying Mike Brown got fired after Kings gave up a 19-point lead against Detroit in the fourth quarter under 5 minutes left. Yeah, this is interesting. Now, I've seen some people are worried about Darko because of this. I seen your comment, Jill, in the chat, in the Raptors Freak chat. I'm not worried about Darko. These situations are all very different. Sure, the Kings are doing better than us, and their coach just got fired. But that's partly because their expectations were much higher for the season. And in some ways, like Trevor said, there was a game recently where they played so badly and they gave up a lead that they had to really consider firing him. Now, one of the things you got to wonder about is there's been a brain drain from the Sacramento Kings coaching staff. The Jordi Fernandez was snatched from them and sent to Brooklyn Nets from last year as the number one assistant. And maybe that hurt Mike Brown a lot. He's lost a couple of very good coaches in the last couple of years. I think Malone was one of them before back in the day. There's a certain group that have kind of come from Mike Brown's coaching staff. They're coaching around the league, and he's lost some really, really good people. Some people may connect the arrival of DeMar DeRozan and not working with the Kings system and the team and them not playing as well as part of the failure. Well, these kind of things happen. I appreciate Michael Malone coming out and speaking against the Kings for firing Mike Brown like this. In some ways, it's a nasty, nasty sport. It's a nasty, nasty profession, and people get discarded like that real quick. Now, Mike Brown, in some ways, I'll say this. Mike Brown has had so many chances in this NBA. He's been very successful. He has NBA championship ring, and he has had a couple of different jobs. So I don't feel too bad for him. In some ways, he's been with the Kings for a good long stretch right now. And, well, this may be the natural end of his tenure with them to this point because that's just what it is. And in some ways, they need the renewal of the coach when things start to get a little stale in certain ways. Now, maybe it's the players' fault because they're not playing as well as they should be because, honestly, they were projected to be way better than they are right now. And unfortunately, the coach is not meeting expectation or what they thought. Well, this is what happens. This is why Darko's safe, because the expectation right now is to do what we're doing right now. And if the expectation was for us to be winning at a higher level, then maybe Darko's job would be in trouble. But it isn't right now. And at some point, well, he will be graded for not improving the Raptors win total. Yes, but not this year, because this year is a wash. This year's a rebuild. This year's been tarnished with so many injury games. And that's just part of it. The effect of this is former Raptor great Doug Christie is now the coach of the Kings. And that's a very interesting thing. A lot of people are celebrating the chance for assistant coach Doug to jump into a head coaching job all of a sudden. And in some ways, this is something very special and nice for him. Just like when Griffin got the job with the Bucks last year, you've been toiling as an assistant coach for a while, and now you get to have the big chair and run the team. So kudos to former Raptor Doug Christie and being the new interim head coach of the Sacramento Kings. So we'll have to see how he does and if he can do a little bit better for them in this situation. Yeah, I feel bad for Mike Brown, but also at the same time, this is what he knew he's into. It's the NBA. This is just how raw and tough it is. And honestly, Mike Brown's had good runs in Cleveland and in LA and in Sacramento. Not, I don't know if they're exactly good runs, but he's had a lot of chances. Let's just put it that way. He's gotten a lot of coaching jobs so far. Yeah. Yeah, let's see. Trevor J saying the Celtics 142, Indiana 105, and the Cleveland 149, and Nuggets 135. Speaking of high scores in the NBA, did you guys know that Isaiah Thomas was involved in one of the highest scoring games in the history of the NBA? It was Denver versus the Detroit Pistons. Back in the 80s, the Denver Nuggets were coached by a man named Paul Westhead, who was a crazy man who played all out on offense, didn't really believe in defense at all at that time. And maybe he's a little ahead of his time for how he liked to coach things, because the way things are now, he would probably fit in way better with the high octane offense and very, very little concern for defense. Well, Paul Westhead and the Pistons and the Nuggets got into huge, crazy scoring battle and had one of the highest scoring total games ever in the history of the NBA. I don't know if it's still the record, but I should look that up. Like the highest scoring NBA game in history, highest scoring NBA game history, both teams. No. Yeah, it is. In December 13th, 1983, the Pistons and the Nuggets combined for a record 370 points, and the Detroit Pistons won. The Pistons had 186 points, and the Nuggets had 184 points. That is still a record to this day. The 186 points by the Pistons. And who do you think had most of those points right there? Seriously, who do you think had most of those points in that game and that night? Yeah, it was Isaiah Thomas. That's right. Isaiah Thomas had 47 points in that game. The Nuggets from Kiki Vandeweghe had 51 points. Kiki Vandeweghe had 51. Isaiah had 47. So, yeah, Alex English, former Raptors assistant coach, had 47 himself on the Nuggets. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Did you guys know that Isaiah scored 47 in the highest scoring game ever in the history of the NBA in 1983? Yeah, there's a little bit of history for you about old Zeke right there. Daniel Barry's live in the chat today. Yo, Daniel, what's up, my guy? I appreciate all your messages and comments on our streams here. And yeah, I'm glad to see you here live today. Y'all check out Daniel Barry's sports highlights. That's right, my guy. There you go. Fiercely saying good morning, fam, and happy Saturday. Agree with Trevor. Jay on the selfish people, hence why you keep them out of your circle. Yeah, it's tough because, you want to be inviting and open to everybody, and you may let people in your lives that you think are your friends, but over time they will reveal themselves and show you who they really truly are. And it sucks because you feel like you got duped. You feel like a fool. But also at the same time, if you have a loving heart and you want to allow everybody a chance, this stuff is going to happen to you sometimes. MJ, I love you. Eye Candy, hope you're holding it down and you have a fantastic holiday going to Montreal recently for your holidays. Yeah, we love you, MJ. And I can't wait for you to come to Toronto sometime and we'll do a Raptor Freak hangout when we meet you, MJ. Seriously. Fiercely saying, I didn't watch that part one due to y'all's comments. I value the fams' input as you all have more background in Raptors history. Isaiah Thomas's greatness as a player made him legit in his vision for the team. No, Fiercely, I think you should watch it. Don't take my review as saying don't watch it. This is must watch for all the Raptors freaks. Don't listen to me and not watch it. You need to watch it. It's worth watching. You need to watch it. It's entertaining. It's just that I'm giving all my little gripes about it. And, well, maybe watch it through the lens of some of the things I've said already, because it's honestly very well done. And it is our history. And we do need to be knowledgeable on our history. So I say definitely watch it. Don't take my opinion as saying don't watch it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying everybody should watch it, but watch it with the open eyes and understanding that some of the things they're trying to portray in it are not exactly the way you should look at it. And I think it's fantastic so far. In fact, I'm looking forward to the other episodes coming out because I feel like they're going to be more happy. The first 5 years were a lot of losing, and in some ways, yeah, there was a lot of dysfunction, there was a lot of infighting, there were a lot of problems, and they have to portray them. But in some ways, that's the only reason why I say that. Sure, maybe I would have liked a better narrator, maybe somebody who's from the basketball world instead of some jabroni from Sportsnet. Sure, maybe I'd like them to treat Isaiah Thomas a little bit more fairly. But overall, this is a fantastic documentary series, Fiercey, and you should definitely watch it. You should definitely watch it. Yeah, Fiercey saying history repeats itself years after years when owners make ignorant decisions which take the team back to bad situations. Sacramento yesterday, prime example. Well, I don't know if this is a bad decision, honestly, because in some ways the Kings are spinning their wheels. They had a lot of success a couple years ago, and Mike Brown was like the coach of the year, and he is, he's done really good stuff there, but they backslided, and that's part of the problem right there. They got to a certain level of excellence and starting to get in the playoffs and having winning, but they've backslided and they've gotten worse. In some ways, they could blame the GM for making moves, and that's part of the reason why. I don't know. The coach is just not coaching them as well, and they want to make a change, and they blame the coach. I'm not mad at this, and I'm not totally surprised by it either that they fired Mike Brown yesterday, because in some ways the Kings are struggling this year different than they had in the last couple years when they have been very good and competing, if not 500 level or better. So it's just the business. This is why I say Darko's okay until he shows some major success. In some ways, if he never shows major success in the next couple of years, he may be in trouble. But if he gets the team to a level like where he's almost 500 again, but then we backslide, then he may be in trouble there. We want to see progress over time. And the Kings did, and they saw backslide. And that's why Mike Brown got fired yesterday. That's why. So it's like if Darko gets success and he gets us to a winning season, and then the next year we're totally bad again, like are this year, then he might get fired. That's how it works right there. That's what I'm saying. Let's see. Cool Cat saying, good morning, Raptor Freak crew. Great topic to cover. Thank you, Cool Cat. Yeah, I just feel like it's unnecessary to drag Isaiah's name through the mud and say some of the things they're trying to say or portray him as the bad guy early on in the Raptors history. I just don't believe this. I think that Isaiah was pure of heart in what his intentions were for the Raptors organization. And in some ways, he went through a heartbreak while on the job because he realized that these owners were going to screw him over. And that made it a very difficult situation because he was supposed to continue to run our team and be okay with taking a different role as not being an owner all of a sudden. That was a tough pill to swallow. And in some ways, I don't blame him for walking away in some ways because it was a toxic situation. And kudos to him. I know it was confusing, and this is the problem. And this is the thing that I've learned the most in the last 2 years with Prehistoric by Alex Wong coming out and all the other things that have happened in the last few years with more information about that era, like this documentary that came out the last couple of days, because it did add some more pieces to the puzzle to fill it in, is that the press was very manipulative with the information. And it's the same thing with the Vince Carter exit, that, people like Doug Smith of the Star and other people that wrote for the papers and for the TV were shaping the stories that they wanted us to know from the corporate speak, that it wasn't necessarily the truth. They just wanted to shape the storyline of the perception of how things shook out so that they looked better, and they protected certain people that were actually the problems for why things happened. Whether it was Richard Petty and the Vince Carter trade, whether it was Richard Petty and the Isaiah Thomas ousting, protecting him and making sure he looks okay as the suit and tie corporate that is now in charge and running things. So there's a lot more to it than just what they said out there like that. Because I'm telling you that we were confused as fans. I remember reading all the articles about the Isaiah Thomas controversies in the late 90s. And I was like, well, what's going on? And why is it going like this with Isaiah? And at times there were times where it's like, well, what is that going on? This is my childhood hero. Why is he doing this to our team? It didn't totally make sense. And maybe there were a couple times where the press fooled me and made me think, oh, Isaiah's at fault. Isaiah's the villain and all this kind of stuff. No, I'm not believing that. And, people can tell me, well, you're crazy, Lex. You weren't there. You weren't inside the rooms and you didn't hear what was said. Listen, I'm on Isaiah's side blindly because honestly, I get who he is. I can see his personality. I can understand who he is. Sure, maybe he had to be a snake in the grass a couple times, but that was the action that was coming at him every which way, and he just wanted to counter it in some ways, is what I'll say right now. Yeah, Kareem's saying that he named his son Zeke after Isaiah Thomas. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I was going to make jokes today that Kareem's uncle is Isaiah because of Thomas' name. And that's pretty cool that he named his son Zeke after Isaiah. And Fiercely likes the nickname Zeke. Yeah, that's a nickname that he had while he played in the NBA. That's what his teammates called him, was Zeke. And that's who he was, running around on the court. That was little Zeke playing the games. Yeah. Yeah, number 11. That's right. Kareem saying Bad Boy Pistons in the late 80s and Fab Five in the early 90s. Detroit was a basketball mammoth during that time. Yeah, those were good times. And honestly, that team, and part of the reason why they may hate Isaiah Thomas is because the Bad Boys were very hated. Very, very hated around the league. People very much hated Bill Laimbeer. People did not like Dennis Rodman. People did not like Isaiah. But listen to this. Isaiah Thomas is such a real one. And this is a difference between the now and then, is that Isaiah played in very important, huge games with broken foot, broken hand. He didn't sit out. If there was a game and it was major to play, and he had a serious medical injury, he would go and play with a broken hand in games. And that's totally lost in the NBA, and rightfully so, because people shouldn't have to play with broken hands. But that's how much it mattered to him to win, that he would play with a broken hand, y'all. Not like a sprain, not anything. His hand's broken, and he's still out there playing and putting in his best effort, and honestly winning still, even with a broken hand. So that's what I'm saying. We got to remember him correctly and understand the whole body of work. And if they want to just gloss over what he did as a player and not give him his credit for that, well, shame on you, because there are certain things he earned as a player and a Hall of Famer that y'all are not. That's the thing. I have to have respect for that. A two-time NBA champion as a player, and also a guy who would die for his team. And in some ways, that is so admirable right there. So admirable, man. That's so admirable. Yeah, Kareem saying Zeke's plan that was supposedly written on a napkin was still better than what came after him. I know. I make this thing, geniuses will write on napkins. Some of the greatest songs in the history of the world were written on napkins, Richard Petty, you dumbass. And trying to make it sound like a plan written on a napkin is a bad thing. Well, go ask Mark Cuban how many plans he wrote on a napkin and how successful he is. Seriously. It's such a stupid thing to say. Oh, it's so snooty. It's like, you know what? The brilliant people write things quickly where they are in that point. And maybe there always was a napkin nearby. People wake up in the middle of the night and they write something on a ticket stub or something like that because they had an idea all of a sudden. They write it on whatever they have available. Creatives, because that's where it was there right then when they needed it, when they had the light bulb. So it's like, yeah, whatever, Richard Petty, trying to be snooty about business world. Well, fuck your business world. In some ways, your business world doesn't win basketball games. It's all about stupid profit and just, screwing people over. Nah, the basketball world is what Isaiah knew. And he knew basketball players, obviously, was drafting. And he knew how to win in the NBA and how to get going and right in the NBA. And none of y'all turkeys did after him. So, yeah, you go ahead and act all bad and mighty because you were a better businessman than Isaiah. You were not a better NBA person than Isaiah. That's the damn truth. That's the damn truth. And bam, son. Bam. Booyaka, 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 booyaka. That's right, Alan Tam. Bam, son. Alan, you're getting a dunk for a very well-timed bam, son. All right, you got that Dominique Wilkins 21, Alan Tam. That's like, I love it, man. Right at the end, he's getting another dunk. 21 dunks for Alan Tam. Bam, son. Booyaka, 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 booyaka. Kareem saying, could you imagine Zeke's biggest blemish was not shaking hands with Jordan after the series loss? That alone puts such a bad skid mark on his career. Listen, that is, to me, I didn't have any problem with that. And I saw it live, and I remember it very well when I was a kid. I understood why even then when I was a kid, because they were such bitter foes and such bitter enemies. And in some ways, that loss to the Bulls ended the Pistons' reign as the top. And they were sad to see that happen. It's emotional in some ways. Finally, Jordan and Pippen beat them and took the crown in the Eastern Conference, which they would reign supreme through the 90s with. And I don't blame them. It wasn't just Isaiah. He was the team captain, but all of the Pistons walked off the court and did not shake the Bulls' hands after that game. But you know what? Is there any rule for that? Maybe there was back then. It's like good sportsmanship. Everybody should do a shake the hands line after the game. But do guys do this in today's game? No. Many of them just walk off the court at this point. It's been normalized where they don't go and dap the other team or visit with them afterwards, former teammates and stuff. No, there's many, many players that will just leave the court at this point, coaches that don't acknowledge the other team at this point. So it's not like, okay, back then, maybe that was out of protocol and maybe it looked really unsportsmanlike. But honestly, the way I read that is those guys were ultimate competitors. They were pissed off they lost. And sure, you can spin it and perceive it however you want. To me, that meant they cared so much and they were pissed that they finally lost. That's what it meant to me, honestly. They spun it as the Pistons are just jerks. They're just thugs. They're just criminals, always hitting people in the air and being dirty and all this kind of stuff. Well, league, you wanted that. In fact, you made a lot of money off of them in that. So don't be hypocrites and act like the Pistons, the bad boys, were something you didn't want in the league, you jerks. Yeah, their violence and malice in the palace and all their crazy shit sold tickets and won games and in some ways made the sport more popular. So, yeah, don't give me this crap. Y'all can treat them like that and say this and that, but truth is they were ultimate competitors and they were pissed that they lost. So, yeah, I don't get mad at that. I don't even look at that as a blemish. Some people may say the comments that he joined on with Dennis Rodman about Larry Bird, where a black guy, about him being white and him being only popular and number one player in the league because he's white. If he was a black guy, he'd just be another guy. That's what Dennis said. Dennis said Larry Bird is overhyped, overrated because he's a white guy. And if he was a black guy, we wouldn't even pay attention to him. That's what Dennis said. And then Isaiah seconded him. He said, yeah, I believe what Dennis said. And everybody came after them for that. I mean, I don't know how true is what they're saying at that time. Maybe, oh, no, don't bring that up. Don't say that kind of thing in the 80s like that. But seriously, in the world now with woke and everybody talking about the reality of things, how much do you think Larry Bird got more promoted because he was a white guy in the league? Seriously, let's think about this. Seriously. Now, I'm not saying he didn't deserve it because the man was top notch and he was one of the best players in the league. But let's not get it twisted. The color of his skin did very much drive his promotion in the league and people wanting to get behind him. Let's not get it twisted. And I think that's kind of where Dennis and Isaiah were trying to come to with it. Maybe it was a little disrespectful to say he'd be nobody if he wasn't white. But yeah, in some ways, Isaiah's come back and apologized for that comment and said, you know what? I was not right with what I said there. And maybe I shouldn't have hitched my wagon to old Dennis on that one. Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. Kaz is here. Good morning, Lex and crew. Good morning to you, Trucker Kaz. W, Trevor J. Yeah, let's give Trevor another dunk for fantastic work all season long as our MVP of the channel this year. Trevor J has been there through thick and thin for me, and I appreciate him so much for he's our 2024 Raptor Freak MVP. Monique has won this award in the past, and she is our all-time MVP. But this year, we're going to say Trevor J is the overall MVP for just helping my channel, being fantastic. 268 for you, Trevor, on the dunk charts now. Yeah, he's awesome. Kaz saying Mike Brown can come over here and replace Pat Delaney. I don't know. I don't want really Mike Brown around. I like Darko's structure, power structure of his team. And in some ways, he doesn't need a guy who may have more accolades than him around because it could be a little dangerous for like shifting different people around and who should be in charge of the Raptors. And I like the job Darko's doing. And if Mike Brown was on our squad all of a sudden, it may be that the Raptors organization is like, well, what if we just switch to Mike all of a sudden? So I don't like that. I like that all of Darko's assistants have less experience than him and that he can truly be a head coach. And that would be the problem with that. I'm not interested in Mike Brown. Mike Brown has a certain personality. In some ways, I'm not totally think he's an excellent coach. I know he's a coach of the year, and he went above and beyond with the Kings a couple of years ago and deserved that award. But also, he has had very failure kind of teams also. And, the way things went in Cleveland by the end, the way things went in LA were a disaster, honestly. So it's like, nah, I'm not interested in him coming up here. No, I'm not. No, I'm not at all. Yeah. Fiercely saying 186 to 184 is crazy work. I know. I'm actually surprised that has not been duplicated in the league at this point. I mean, seriously, we just had the Grizzlies drop 155 on us, and that looked like crazy. And this is like a 30 more for both teams than that. That is crazy, isn't it? How did they do that in a regulation NBA time frame? 186 to 184. Isn't that insane? Isn't that nuts, man? Yeah. If you're saying, okay, I will watch it. Yeah, definitely watch it. Definitely watch it. You know what? You know what I'm gonna do when Raptor stuff comes out. I'm gonna be giving my reactions, and if I really love something, I'll be effusive and give it really good ratings. And I do really love the show. I'm glad they made it. I love the Raptors. I love seeing their history. It's just I'm nitpicking, and I'm giving my critiques of it in little ways. But I'm just so glad they made it. I love the interviews. I love the retelling the stories. I love hearing new little details about things that happened that I did not realize or I forgot. It may be something that they say, and I'm like, oh yeah, totally forgot that the expansion draft was on YTV, and now I remember. It's that kind of stuff that's kind of fun, and it's just like Prehistoric by Alex Wong. Every single thing that has to do with our history, young Raptors fans that weren't around then, eat it up and understand your heritage as a Raptors fan and understand the 30 years of where this team came from and why it is the way it is and know the truth. And that's all part of I'm trying to do with this part of telling the other side of the story for Isaiah right now. That's what I'm trying to do right now. Yeah. Kareem saying it is a very good documentary thus far, Fiercey. Yeah. I'm being nitpicky. I don't like the narrator. I wish they had somebody else come do it. It may have been better if Matt Bonner had done it or, somebody from Sportsnet that's more basketball like centric, that is a voice we hear all the time. Like if they had Jack Armstrong do it, that would have been brilliant. That would have been awesome. I don't know. Matt Devlin could have done it. There's people that could have treated it with the respect and gravity and emotion better than this jabroni Tom that did it. Because, like, honestly, he's a jokester. And in some ways, I've never heard his voice before. I don't associate it with the Raptors. And it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, why didn't you get Rod Black to do it? Rod Black, the original voice of the Raptors, would have been perfect to do this. He's retired. He has the time. You should have had Rod Black do the narration for this project. And yeah, I just don't agree with who they got to do the narration. I think he's a jabroni. In some ways, he's doing it unprofessionally, is the way he does it. Yeah. Yeah. Fiercely saying, yes, Kings fans really unhappy, but they blame the owner and GM for not giving Mike Brown the personnel to support Sabonis and Fox. They needed defensive help and bench depth. That's sometimes what happens. The coach gets scapegoated, and the problems are actually with the front office and getting the right players on the team. Yeah, that's just how it goes in this league. In some ways, that sucks. But once again, how long was Mike Brown the coach of the Kings? And he got a good tenure here. He was very successful there. So sometimes the tenure of success comes back down around to failure. Well, we're not ready for you to build it back up. And it could also be that Mike Brown might have lost the confidence of some of the very key Kings like De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. And that may be part of the problem also, y'all, on the inside that we don't know. So let's see. Kaz is saying adding DeMar to an already atrocious defense didn't help Mike Brown, in my opinion. Yeah. And I don't want to slight DeMar. I know a lot of people are pushing the narrative DeMar DeRozan, wherever he goes, he loses right now. Well, that's not totally true. It's just that he's a certain type of player. I might say this, that the NBA is moving away from DeMar and his mid-range game. And he was better in his era before. His heyday was in the 2010s. And this league has changed a lot since the Raptors championship. And, in some ways, the league is not as friendly towards a player like DeMar DeRozan and what his bag of tricks is. And that's part of it, is like DeMar is a holdout for the mid-range game. And in some ways, his game and the way it was is more like the game of Alex English from the 80s that did such a crazy scoring in that game we just alluded to. And, there's things about DeMar that are fantastic. But in some ways, I don't think he was the right puzzle piece to be in Sacramento. I thought that it was a weird fit when I heard it this past summer. I was hoping that it would work and it would be very, very good, but it's obvious it's not working. And I feel bad because in some ways, DeMar DeRozan was better off just staying in Chicago than coming to Sacramento in this way. In some ways, he would have been better off if the Lakers had finally let him just live his dream and go and play with LeBron on the Lakers right now. But that wasn't to be either. And I don't understand that. Let DeMar DeRozan play for one of the LA teams. It's been his dream his whole life. And Sacramento is just not the right mark for playing in California. But yeah, I just want happiness for DeMar. Now, one of the weird things that's coming up right now is very, very interesting. Is there's a little bit of rumors and rumblings that DeMar could get traded to us. I know a lot of people would not be interested in that in any kind of way, but I want to go through the exercise of thinking about that and what that would mean for Toronto. Because in some ways, you know what he would bring? He would bring that clutch, that ability to close the game out and help us win at the end of games we're missing right now. So I don't know if there's room for him on this team with RJ and Scotty on this team already. But DeMar in a more diminished role, maybe off the bench, back with the Raptors, healing that wound here again with Pirtle, who he's traded away with, could be a very, very interesting, weird thing that if we decided to like trade, and some people say it doesn't make any sense for our team and what we're doing with our rebuild, but who knows? Who knows? I mean, I'd love to heal things with DeMar and have him come back and get the love. And if he comes back and all of a sudden gets us out of the cellar by helping us win games because he knows how to do it, that would be very interesting, seriously, because we know DeMar knows how to close games out and score enough to get over the other team. And that's the other thing. He could be teaching very valuable stuff to our young BBQ on that topic. So I don't know. That thought exercise of DeMar DeRozan back in a Raptors jersey suddenly is something crazy. Some people may have thought it was never ever going to be possible. But DeMar is not mad at us to the point where he would refuse a trade to the Raptors at this point. I'll bet you. I'll bet you. And in some ways, it'd be healing for him. It'd be very, very healing for him to come back here and show that he wants to mentor our young players like he's mentored the Bulls players, the Spurs players, and a bit of the Kings players this year. Yeah. Let's see. Kareem saying this is why a cohesive unit is important. Today's basketball is always better to it's always trying to make another trade to be better. Sometimes the best move is the move you don't make. Ask the Wolves and the Kings. Yes. That's why people need to be patient when they're cooking a rebuild and not like start throwing ingredients out to get new ingredients thinking you can fast track the process. Sometimes you need to just go with that group, that core, because they're tight and they're a unit. And when you add somebody new, it changes the whole feel of connectivity. So that's why we want to preserve the very nice connectivity that the Raptors have currently. And adding new people, you really got to think it out and understand what that will do to change the chemistry of your team. And that is something some of these other teams have not thought about. And I talk about the Knicks on this a lot because the chemistry with Hartenstein on the team last year with the rebounding and everything with OG on the team was phenomenal. And they've lost that in some ways since. Some people say, oh, well, we're better with Cat. We're better with Mikhail. I don't know. You're going to see that some of the holes from what you had last year are not there this year. And when you get pressed in the pressure test later on this year in the playoffs and against the top teams, yeah, you're going to see that, man. You're going to see that. Fiercely saying this season, so many game ejections. Lex, remind me what happens when you get attacked. What is the fine? NBA must be happy. Yeah, the fine used to be $1,000 every technical. And I don't know. It's different on everything. Joel just got fined for making the DX chop in the game against the Celtics. And they're saying that he got fined how much? He got fined $75,000 for just doing this. And he was sitting on the ground too. Claxton got fined $25,000 for throwing the ball into the crowd when he was in Toronto recently. Darko's going to get fined for throwed out the other night, and he probably get, it probably won't be too much. He'll get $1,000 for each technical, so he'll probably get $2,000 and maybe like a little bit on top. And that money that the NBA gets, it goes towards charity. Just so you know, they're not like keeping it as profit and saying, "Oh, we got more profit for the company." If they are, they're insidious and that's immoral, honestly. No, most of the time the fines, everything that is paid in the NBA for fines is going to good charities, and that is always a good thing. Yeah. But yeah, techs used to be worth 1,000, but I don't know with inflation. Maybe they've gone up a little bit. Kareem saying the Sacramento Kings owner wearing "Not Like Us" shirt was really their downfall. Drake definitely casted his spell on that franchise. No, I think it was just that it was a bad move. I mean, in some ways, the idea of getting a player like DeMar DeRozan on your team sounds good on theory, but it didn't really fit with who they were. It really, really didn't. And they're showing that now. In some ways, the Kings maybe overachieved in recent years, getting to where they were with the team they have, because in some ways their team isn't that good, honestly. I don't believe all the hype about De'Aaron Fox. I don't think he's been consistent enough to really get the accolade as a golden boy in the league, as a future face in the league. I don't think he has. He's a run of the mill player in the league, as far as I'm concerned. Sure, he's fast. Sure, he can get steals, but I don't think he's a good enough shooter. And in some ways, he's not consistent enough night in, night out to be considered a top player in the league. All-star. No, I don't even know if he's an all-star player. I've always thought Sabonis was more important than him, and that they needed to like center the team around Demotis, because in some ways he has more promise to be that guy. So there's a lot of different things, that the Kings may have overachieved in recent years, and they look really good at their high point, and they kind of came down to more normal earth recently in the last 2 years. So I don't know. It's interesting. Let's see. Trevor's saying the Kings just gave Mike Brown an extension and turned around and fined him. What? What did you? What, Trevor? You're confusing me. Let me see what it is. Did they not fire him? In some ways, what? Okay, you're saying words and they're not the right words once again. Trevor, I need you to enunciate, because you're saying turned around and find him. You mean turned around and fire him. Because they just gave him a new extension on his contract and then fired him. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why they do that. I don't know why they do that. All right, let's see. Where are we in the chat? No, 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 no. Fiercely saying players I notice who are nostalgic, often in scuffles and teed up. Draymond, Claxton, Nurkic, Beef Stew. Yeah, I don't know. These guys care about playing, and they're ultimate competitors. Maybe they're a little dirty. Maybe they're a little wrong in some of the things they do. Kaz is saying, not sure who's worse at this point, Kings owner or Knicks owner. Oh, definitely the Knicks owner. I don't think the Kings owner is that bad, honestly. He's had hit and miss with what he's doing. I think the Kings owner is actually one of the better owners in some ways, guys. Not going to lie, seriously. Because listen, the Kings franchise before Vivek was very like downtrodden, like the Clippers were historically. The Kings and the Clippers were very much alike for most of the 80s and 90s and 2000s. The Kings came up with Chris Webber and Vladdy Divac and Jason Williams and Doug Christie when he was playing, and they had some success in the 2000s. But for the most part, the Kings franchise has not been respected throughout the history of the NBA. And well, Vivek has made them more popular. In fact, the attendance for Kings games is better than ever right now. In some ways, that is a sign that he's been successful. The light, the beam, the enthusiasm around the Kings has gone up while this guy's been the owner. So I can't say he's a bad owner. Plus, he's done very good things as far as hiring women and putting people in good positions for success. So I can't get behind this. I think that he's a pretty good owner. He's a good dude too. I know he wore that dumb shirt earlier in the season, but he's a progressive owner. He's a good man, and his company and him as a billionaire and what he does, he's actually not one of the bad owners. Like there's villain owners like Adelson that owns the Mavs now. She is absolutely awful. She's funding the genocide against the Palestinians right now, using the funds from the Dallas Mavericks profits to kill people over in Gaza. And, that's not what Vivek is. Vivek he's just a goofy, quirky guy who loves basketball. He's more like Mark Cuban and a benevolent owner that wants the best for his team, trying to give them all the things. And he thinks about the fans too. So he's one of those fan-friendly owners that's trying to do fun things for the team and the fans also. So I put him in the category with somebody like Mark Cuban, Steve Ballmer, Matasheba, Ryan, who's out in Utah. These are guys that care about the fan experience, and they're trying to improve their teams for the fans in some ways. They're fans themselves. So I can't get behind this. James Dolan is absolutely the worst owner in the NBA right now. Absolutely the worst owner. Common Crazy saying no swearing Saturdays. No, that's no swearing Sundays. And good to see you, Raptor Freak Common Crazy. I'm going to go ahead and give you a dunk for coming in and doing what you do, telling me not to swear. Common Crazy, where are you on the dunk charts? There you are. You're going to get your Doug Christie 13, my guy. There you go. You got 13 dunks at the end of the year. Kareem saying, no, I named my son Isaiah, not Zeke. See, there you go. He named his son Isaiah Thomas. So there you go. Kareem has a son named after the first president of the Raptors. That is cool as hell. Seriously, that if that's not a Raptor streak, that's a Raptor streak. He has a son named after the first ever president of our organization. Man, that's cool as hell. I'm gonna give you a dunk for that, Kareem. That may be one of the strangest ways you've gotten a dunk this year. But yeah, you're getting a dunk for naming your son Isaiah Thomas. Yeah, 5'15". Boom goes the dynamite. That is awesome. I did not know that. That's crazy. Fiercely saying, remove nostalgic. I don't know how that got my autocorrect. It's all good. It's all good. They've been put some extra words in there sometimes. Trevor's saying, Ja got injured last night. He hurt his shoulder. I don't like hearing that. John Morant got hurt again. That's no good. Alan Tam's got the fire out. I love it. Yeah. Tam, bam, son. Thank you for the backup on your bam, son. It was perfect timing for when I needed it. Kareem saying, if I'm remembering correctly, wasn't it Zeke who wanted to pair up with the Leafs? That is how to be MLSC. This was all on his napkin they speak of. Well, the thing is that at that time, everybody knew that we'd have to pair with the Leafs because in some ways we didn't financially have the backing or the reputation to build the Air Canada Center by ourselves and have it completely successful. So the writing was on the wall. No matter who was going to own the Raptors, they were going to successfully have to invite the Maple Leafs to leave Maple Leaf Garden and join us in the brand new building. Now, once again, Steve Stavro was the owner of the Maple Leafs, and he was related to John Batove Jr. family-wise, like cousins, and they had a family dispute. These was like old Toronto Greek families around Toronto that made a lot of money throughout the 19th century and going about doing their things, like with the concrete business with Tannenbaum. There's Stavro with his groceries chains and John Batove and the Batove family doing catering and restaurant work. And well, there was a dispute between Batove and Stavro about food for the restaurants from the groceries. And they became very much pitted against each other in the middle of the last century. And it was way before the Raptors even came in existed that this grudge developed. And well, when John became the owner of the Raptors and got the Raptors successfully launched, Stavro wouldn't have nothing to do with him being in charge of the Raptors side of things inside of an umbrella with the Leafs. And he said no. And he said no. And in some ways, Stavro put us in a bad place because he knew the NBA had a deadline for the Raptors organization to build their new facility, the Air Canada Center. And if they didn't, well, they were going to take our team back away from us. That was part of the contract. Y'all don't realize is that the NBA said, you guys can have the Raptors, but you cannot play in the Skydome for too long. That's temporary. You need to build an NBA facility. And if you don't by this time period, we're going to take your franchise away from you. So we were on the clock. And in some ways, we were the Leafs bitch as far as working with them to make this happen. And that's where this all unraveled. Batove was selected Isaiah to be the president, and he was his guy from Indiana. They went to school together. And in some ways, Indiana, Isaiah was not going to last in the new regime without Batove there, who picked him, because they didn't want anything to do with Batove or what he had selected from before. They took the shell of the Raptors, the logo, the idea, the concept from John Batove. They even took the concept for the Air Canada Center from him and fulfilled it without him. And that's the whole story right there, guys. You need to understand the family feud between the Greek families axed him out and Isaiah, the waves afterwards. We know this is how sports franchises are. In some ways, when Masai came in, over time, he got rid of all the picks that Colangelo had over time, but he did honor them for a while. I mean, look at how long Jonas was on our team. Look at how long DeMar DeRozan thrived on our team under Masai's watch when these were not guys that he selected. Then Brian Colangelo selected them. And even like Dwayne Casey, he was not hired by Masai Ujiri. He was hired by Brian Colangelo. And look how long Masai Ujiri let Dwayne Casey coach our team into his tenure until he finally fired him. So you got to understand, some people don't like having other people working for them and they inherit the jobs. And this was definitely the case early on in the Raptors. So that was their choice to clear house and force Isaiah out after John was forced out after 1 year. So yeah, understand the truth about all this. Seriously, understand the truth of all this. And yeah, all along, every single one of them knew They were going to have to pair it with the Leafs and make something like MLSE happen for the Raptors to continue to be around. Yeah, it was a necessary evil at that time just to get the building built and have the Raptors be okay with the NBA with their qualifications for what they were necessary to stay in the league. Yeah, Fiercey's giving Trevor a cup. I love it. I love it. Carlos saying that Sacramento management dropped the ball with their decisions to sign DeMar when they need a defense. No slight to DeMar. He is what you need if you need offense. Yeah, it was a weird fit. In some ways, I don't know. Maybe they were doing an alliteration thing. They wanted to have DeModis, De'Aaron, and DeMar, the 3D. They wanted to go 3D or something like that. I don't know. In some ways, it is what it is. It's sad because I don't like to see DeMar in the middle of it and maybe people disrespecting him and saying different things about him, whether it is Sacramento Nation or any other nation or even our own people saying, yeah, DeMar is this and that. Y'all need to be respecting DeMar DeRozan better because he's an important Raptor. He may be one of the greatest Raptors of all time, if not the greatest or the second greatest, in my opinion. So, yeah, it is what it is. In some ways, it's Sacramento's dumpster fire. It sucks. I protect and honor the legacy and reputation of DeMar DeRozan. The rest of it, I don't care about. I'm happy for Doug Christie, former Raptor, to get this opportunity at this point. Yeah. Fiercely saying De'Aaron Fox is now signed with Clutch and Rich Paul already stirring shit. Hence the recent rumors Fox is requesting a trade. Yeah, I mean, I can understand why De'Aaron would want to get out of there. But honestly, you're like DeJounte Murray. You're not that hot shit. Everybody thinks you're so badass. And, well, I could see you being very much like DeJounte Murray. Go around from team to team. You're not going to get anywhere. So, yeah, De'Aaron Fox, be careful what you wish for. You may be like Damon Stoudemire with the Raptors, and you may find out that them wanting to make you the franchise player in Sacramento is great, and you shouldn't screw around with that. And you go somewhere else, and you're just another Joe Schmo on another team, and they don't have any plans to build around you or make you a franchise tag. So, yeah, you go ahead and walk that tightrope with Rich Paul and mess with your career, De'Aaron Fox. You have it pretty good in Sacramento. They're building around you. They call you the franchise player. You go somewhere else, that may not be the case. And you may learn the lesson of Damon Stoudemire. That's right. That's right. Damon Stoudemire. That's so stupid. That YTV guy called him Stoudemire. That was before we knew basketball back then, man. That dude is awesome, though. I love that YTV guy that's in the documentary. He said that. I do. Stoudemire. All right, let's keep going. Smith saying DeMar to Toronto. Where did you read that, Lex? I don't know. I mean, that I've heard it somewhere that somebody said something. It may not be very realistic or even anywhere likely or possible, but I did hear something weird about what if the Raptors reclaimed DeMar DeRozan and he came back to Toronto now. It would be very intriguing. I mean, in some ways, I'd love it because, like I said, it'd be healing for DeMar. I love DeMar. I'm not against him being on our team, especially at the state we're in right now. And he would add certain things that we need desperately to close games and win games. It's not that I don't think RJ will get there at a certain point, but man, it would be weird. It's a thought exercise, basically. I'm not saying that it's likely or it's realistic, but it's an interesting thought exercise to think about that if the Kings are thinking about moving DeMar again, would the Raptors be interested in returning him to a Raptors jersey and being in Toronto? And would DeMar even, like, in some ways it's ambiguous about whether DeMar would be cool with that or not. You know, if we did get DeMar, it'd be likely that Lowry would be more interested in coming back here too, which would be very weird to have those guys at the end of their careers in Toronto again. It'd be very, 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 very weird. Yeah. Wayne saying, morning, Raptor freaks. If DeMar is willing to arrest his ego, I'm all for it. If Temple is here, we can accommodate DeMar. Yeah, and it may be a lesser role. It may be that he's not ready to take the less minutes because he is still at a very high level with his athleticism and his ability that he may have to eat some crow and kind of be more of a bench player and a guy that takes less minutes and more of a rotational player in different ways. He may have to be Malik Monk or something like that for the Raptors. I don't know. I don't know if it's realistic or they'd even be thinking about this. I just saw it online and I was like, wow, that's actually a really weird thought. It struck me just now seeing this comment saying, what if DeMar came back to Toronto right now? That'd be very weird. Very, very weird. Kareem saying DeMar and Lowry coming off the bench works for me. Where do I sign? There you go. I mean, that does really give you so I mean, maybe, I don't know. Lowry's probably happy at this point. The Sixers started so bad this year. that he was in the doldrums, but they're starting to get it back together. And Lowry's kind of like, he wants to try and see things through with Nick in Philadelphia. And they're finally getting it going and out of their really, really horrible start. We'll see if they got enough in the time left in the season to get to a certain point and place in the standings. And we'll see how their health is come around playoff time too. But I don't think it's likely that Kyle will be leaving Philadelphia anytime right now, just because it seems like Philly's starting to get things going again right now. So yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Fiercely saying, "Ooh, I thought the money went to the NBA." Thanks for clarifying. Yeah, I think that they donate it. I think that I've heard in the past that everything that the NBA finds people for goes to charity somewhere else. And that's part of the PR of trying to make it look good and stuff like that. I don't think that they're trying to rob their employees back, their wages back, and just hoarding it as money for themselves. If they are, that's pretty bad. That's pretty awful, because in some ways they call technicals and all this kind of stuff willy-nilly, that they could just be stealing money. Seriously. No, I think that that money all goes to charity. Charities of the NBA's choice is what happens. Yeah. Yeah. Carlos saying Mike Brown had a recent extension. Yeah, that doesn't, that shows you that, yeah, just because you get an extension doesn't mean that your job is safe. Yeah, that's right. Kaz is saying Nick Stauskas. Okay, I don't even know whether you brought up Nick Stauskas right there, but that's pretty good. All right, Monique is here. Good morning, Raptor Freak crew. Zeke gets his flowers from me. What a game for the 905s site. Oh my God, so close. All right, let's bring this up since Monique has brought it up. We did have the opening game of the Raptors 905s G League season yesterday, kicking it off for the whole league at 4 p.m. yesterday. It was an interesting game. The Birmingham squadron came out early and was kicking our butt, but the Raptors caught up and we were starting to kick their butt. It was very back and forth, very even game. In fact, it was even right up until the final buzzer of regulation. And we went to the Elam ending. Now, the Elam ending in this case was the first team to score 7 in the overtime, no clock. And this is so dumb. The people at Paramount didn't realize they need the shot clock still, even without the regular clock and an Elam ending. And some guy turned off the whole system at the end of regulation. And there was a delay between the regulation game and the overtime starting because he had to reboot the whole system. And they showed him on the sideline, like holding his face, like, oh my gosh, like, oh, freaking out because he screwed up so bad. And it caused like a 5-minute delay between starting the overtime and the game ending in regulation. It was so dumb. And the refs were kind of like, yeah, we need the shot clock, you idiot. You can't turn the whole system off like that. So a lesson was learned. The Elam ending's weird. First team to score 7 wins. Well, the Raptors did great in the overtime at first. They had Frank Kaminsky being the big guy down low, and he was doing this all game. Some ways they couldn't have an answer for Frank Kaminsky down low, just like we couldn't have an answer for Zach Edey in the Memphis game the other night. His bigs and his long arms was just putting the ball in the basket. And we scored our first 2 baskets off of Kaminsky in the paint, and we needed only a 3-pointer. Meanwhile, the squadron scored their 2 baskets, and we were tied all of a sudden. And, well, Kennedy Chandler, wanting to be a hero, jacked up a 3. He was open, and he totally missed. And then they rebounded. It came down the other way, and this guy, Crutcher, he came out and hit this 3 at the top of key, long 3, very confidently, and won the game on that 3-point shot. So the Raptors 905 lost their opening game for the G League season by a 3-pointer in the Elam ending and a shootout back and forth. Chandler, man, what the hell? In some ways, I wish they had worked inside and just gotten the 2-pointer and then very much stayed on the other side, really, really guarding the 3-point line. That should have been the strategy. I know Andrew Jones coaches y'all right, and he probably told y'all this. Don't go for the 3. You're going to try and win it all on that shot, Kenny Chandler, but you're not a hero, man. Come on. In fact, you're annoying, bro. It's selfish. In some ways, they should have went in, gotten Frank another basket, even if they were only 1 point away, and then really got back on defense and guarded that 3-point perimeter really, really well, because they didn't. And that guy confidently just shot a 3, and boom, the game's over. Elam ending. After the game, Quincy Guerriere and AJ Lawson talking about the Elam ending and how it works. And, well, that's how it goes. There's no clock. There's no nothing. You make the shot and you hit that target score, and boom, the game's over. And, well, it was the squadron that won that game in overtime. Unfortunately, we win the last game of the G League Showcase season in an overtime game against the San Diego Clippers. and then we lose in an overtime game in the first game of the regular season. Not the best way to start the season, but it's close. And in some ways, we're 0-1. Oh, well. In some ways, I'm sure Andrew Jones is happy with the effort and the stuff that was seen in most of the game. But yeah, not the execution in the overtime as far as just barely losing. Heartbreaker indeed, Monique. My 3 stars of the game for the G League game. Quincy Guerriere came off the bench yesterday, and he was fantastic. 8 of 12 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3, 4 of 4 at the free throw line, 6 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 turnovers, a plus 10 with 24 points in 26 minutes. Great points per minute. Quincy was on fire. He had an amazing alley-oop dunk where he went up there and got it from real high and threw it down. He was just really, really active on the boards and with scoring and helping carry the 905. Kennedy Chandler begrudgingly is the second star of the game. He did have a very efficient game, and he did play well overall. It's just, man, I don't want you calling your own number in clutch situations because you're not reliable, Kennedy Chandler. And you taking that 3 and trying to play hero ball, it just makes me hate you more. Seriously, I really don't like you, man. And in some ways, Luke Wynn, I wish you didn't have Kennedy Chandler and Charlie Brown on this team. We could have had better players in these positions. I know they're very talented, and maybe they're the most talented guys you could find to be on this team and there, but these aren't team players, and these aren't guys that I would want on my G League team. So, yeah, and it showed. We got burned for it in this game yesterday because Kenny Chandler wants to be a hero. He's going to call his own number, and he's going to jack up a 3 that's ill-advised at a point in the game where he really shouldn't. But, yeah, Kennedy, 6 of 11 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3, made his only free throw, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 steals, only 1 turnover, a plus 14 with 15 points in 32 minutes. He is still my second star of the game. My third star of the game is Eugene Omoruyi in the starting lineup, 5 of 10 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3. He did miss all 3 of his free throws, which is annoying. 3 offensive rebound with 6 altogether. 4 assists, 1 block, 3 turnovers, 11 points for Eugene in 31 minutes. Some honorable mentions to Frank Kaminsky, also Jared Roden, and AJ Lawson was also pretty good. He just wasn't efficient. AJ, 8 of 23 from the field, 2 of 10 from three-point line, 2 of 3 at the free throw line, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 2 turnovers, 21 points for AJ in 38 minutes. Yeah, AJ was carrying us at times, and in some ways in the overtime, he was the one who was trying to really take over. And he was. At a certain point, we saw AJ Lawson kind of dealing with his first home game at Mississauga. Like, this is my house. I'm defending it, and I'm going to go all out. We saw him getting on the floor, busting after it. We saw him doggedly fighting like he was defending his own house. And I love to see that passion for his hometown and also with this hometown family at the game, watching him very closely. He really was going all out. And AJ, man, we see that. I recognize that, man. And I just wish that you had been more successful in winning the game overall. But it was not for trying. You definitely were putting the effort out there and leaving it all on the court. So I appreciate you, AJ Lawson, for that. Yeah, at the game last night, Davion Mitchell, interviewed by Lindsey Dunn at in between one of the quarters, and he was there saying that he supports the 905 because he enjoys watching basketball and that there's not a whole lot of basketball to watch at different times. And so, of course, he wants to go and watch the Raptors 905 play a game in a Friday afternoon when he's available and he has time, and he loves watching basketball. Joining him on the sideline was Bruno Fernando and Jamal Shed, also being there in attendance in the front row at the 905 game to watch the Raptors 905 in this game. Yeah, fun to see. Yeah, and if you want to go and sit in the front row at the Raptors 905 game, we're going on January the 19th to see them play the Valley Suns. And I'm going to try and get courtside seats for this game. I'm going to pay extra just to go down there and get that courtside experience. Who knows? The Raptors keep coming to the games. We may be sitting next to Bruno Fernando if we go to the Raptors 905 game with me. Valley Suns, January the 19th, 2 p.m. tip-off. We did it last month when we went to Westchester Knicks earlier this month. So, y'all, if you're interested in coming to 905 with old Lex and some of the other Raptor freaks, I think MK is going to come back and go to this one again with me. I know Sue has told me that she's going to try and come to this game. So we're going to have a good group, and I hope y'all could come and watch us play the expansion Valley Suns, their very first year in the league, in the G League, and their first ever game in Mississauga. will be on January 19th, and we'll be there. Another game of note that's coming up for the 905 that y'all should know about is early in January, we're going to play a home game, 2 home games against the Austin Spurs. And guess who's playing for them right now? That's right. Malachi Flynn will be coming to Mississauga's Paramount Fine Food Center, playing for the Spurs Austin team against us in our arena. He did play a little bit on 905, Malachi, but he barely played in the G League when he was in the Raptors team. And well, now he's full-time G League for the Spurs, and he's going to get to come back. We'll have to see if we get any Malachi Flynn revenge games in early January against the 905 when the Austin Spurs come in for 2 games. Yeah, so yeah, if y'all can make the G League game January the 19th, I'll be there. Just look for me, and we'll go, and we'll try and get seats right next to court. If not on the first row, somewhere courtside. I want to be as close to court as possible and get that experience of watching a G League game that close. Because, it's a lot less expensive than sitting that close at a Raptors game where it's like thousands of dollars. This is like $100 to sit right next to court at G League. And to me, that's worth it, considering we have Ulrich Shamshay on that team, and I want to see him up close. Yeah, that's what I'm saying right there. Yeah, boom goes the dynamite. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, yeah. UC saying, bad boy Pistons or not, Isaiah is always going to be a Raptor for bringing us to the NBA. Yes, yes. I mean, he can be both of that. He's always going to be a Detroit Pistons legend, obviously. Maybe the most important Detroit Piston ever in that franchise's history, seriously. And, the very important parts of him being in the NBA with the Raptors at the beginning is fantastic. We've got to remember, Isaiah literally hurt his ankle and ended his NBA playing career and went straight to our front office. It was like within the same year. And he was not experienced. He was coming in without a lot of knowledge, but boy, was he right. He was right about Damon Stoudemire. He was right about a lot of the moves that he was making. And he looked very capable and like he was doing the right job. A lot of people are trying to paint him as a failure and as a businessman and as a manager. But no, with the Raptors, he was not. He was a complete success the time he was here. It's just that his exit had acrimony and confusion. And that's where everybody has a problem right there. That's where everybody has a problem. Let's see. Yeah, bad boy Pistons. I love them. I love them, UC. That's right. Vinny, the microwave Johnson, baby. That's right. That's what I'm talking about, baby. Yeah, baby. All right, let's go look at the Instagram stories. Trevor's got me on them. Lloyd has got something cooking, y'all. He's filming something, man. It looks like his 4 films is going to be something more put together or something. He's got an editor or something. So, Lloyd, whatever you're doing creatively with shooting stuff and putting things together, keep going, man. Wubbs is showing the spray paint. We haven't heard about the spray paint all year, but there he is posting it on his Instagram, him and Grady and Jonathan Mobo and him making the spray paint sign. Jacoby, get well and return to the court. We need you out there, man. Your scoring is fantastic. Wubbs also celebrating his former Baylor teammate, Yves Missy, for dunking on Zach Edey in the Pelicans versus Memphis Grizzlies game recently. Of course, Yves Missy was his teammate at Baylor last year. And in some ways, he's celebrating him that way. Garrett Temple has got a Zoomathon tomorrow. He's appearing on with Apostle Mardia Scott and NBA vet Garrett Temple. Amazing. And featuring Omar Gooding, actor and comedian. It's give one, give one, give one, give one, buy one, Jan 1. December 28th, tomorrow, or today, actually. They're on at 3 o'clock. So, yeah, Garrett Temple's on a telethon today. So y'all check it out. It's for the kids, y'all. It's for the kids. Jamal McGlure is celebrating the Canadian history of having 6 Canadians in the game the other night and the Grizzlies lost. He's like, yes, yes, yes. And Jamal's got to feel it himself, man. Jamal McGlure is the first ever Canadian to play for the Raptors, and that's a great honor. And in some ways, he's the first ever Torontonian to play the Raptors. He'll always be the first. And that's why I love that he's our community ambassador, and his ties to our franchise are still very strong, honored, and he is involved. And I love that. I love that so much. So Jamal, yes, let's be proud of our Canadian heritage and the strides and advancements we're getting with 6 Canadian players appearing in the game against the Grizzlies on Thursday night with the Raptors. Yeah, that was awesome. He loves that Canadian content. Jamal's also saying it's funny when people think you're the problem until they fall back and they still have the same problems afterwards. Hey, hello. He's showing off Caribbean style and fashion in 1993. Jamal's very nostalgic, and he loves showing the old throwback kind of stuff on his Instagram stories. It's pretty fun. Let's see. Here he is at Scarborough Spots at a gift shop. and I'm not sure what's going on there. They're thanking CBC for something. Not sure what that is all about. There he is in the scrum, the media scrum. He's showing off a Vince Carter highlight from when he was on the Raptors, dunking on Mutombo. That's a nasty dunk. Brap. Yeah, that's a nasty dunk. And also, before smartphones and social media, people would wave on cameras and say hi on camcorders. There's the four files with Lloyd, and he's in a subway station with the camera. That's all you see. There's something coming. Lloyd is putting something together. I hope it's a really awesome documentary of some sort. AJ Lawson putting on blast him and Quincy and their scores from yesterday against the Birmingham Squadron. 21 points for AJ Lawson, 24 points for Quincy Guerriere. The Canadians showing up for the Raptors 905, including Eugene Omoruyi. So, yeah, you keep going, Canadians and local Canadians for the 905. I love it. There's a hammer thrown down by Eugene. Just some really, really awesome stuff. And AJ Lawson, yeah, just really, really good stuff in the game from the 905 yesterday, if not the loss. It sucks that they lost in the end. But they played a good game. Honestly, they were winning at halftime, and it was one of the better G League games the 905s played all year, despite losing in the Elam ending at the end. Mo Pete's got something on blast. I can't see it. It's black, and it just says 100%, 100%. What is it, Monique? Mo Pete? What is it, Mo Pete? I can't tell. What is it? Jamal Shed has got a Jacoby Walter dunk on and saying is a bucket. And there they are, the three of them at courtside at the 905 game. Shed, Bruno, and Davion rocking the gestures and just being proud to support the 905 team. Davion Mitchell with the highlights from the game the other night, him guarding John Morant and trying to do things. And yeah, there's a better view of when he lost the shoe and what happened here against the Desmond Bain when he lost his shoe, and then he had to play with one shoe. Yeah, you're a badass for that, Davion Mitchell. One shoe, Davion. That's what we saw. And there he is at courtside at 905 game yesterday, taking pictures. There he is interviewed by Lindsey Dunn with his silent ball in his hand. And yeah, there's the three of them again. And there he is being on the interview with, I guess he was on the interview with McKean, getting interviewed in Mississauga at the game also. So yeah, it's good stuff. Let's see. Who else do we have on here? Jonathan Mobo celebrating Jacoby Walter on his Instagram. Grady Dick showing his line from the game against the Grizzlies the other day. 14 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. And he's got his "We're Not in Kansas" suit on anymore. On also his draft day fit with the sequin red. Yeah, in some ways, Grady is really feeling that right now, that we are not in Kansas anymore, Toto. The Raptors are in a weird place, and it's a tough time. So buckle down and get better is what I'm saying, young Grady. That's right. Get better. Raptors 905 releasing their team, and they want you to vote for the Raptors 905 in the G League Up Next game coming up. So get your votes in, not only for the NBA All-Star for our Raptors, but vote for the 905 in the G League Up Next game. And yeah, there's the roster. You see on the roster, you got Shamshay, Kaminsky, AJ Lawson, Eugene Omoruyi, Kennedy Chandler, Jared Rhoden, who made his debut as a Raptor 905 yesterday, back from injury, Jamison Battle, Tyreek Key, Charlie Brown Jr., Evan Gilliard, the Jr., Tyler Perry, Dylan Disu, and Quincy Guerriere is the squad right there of 13 that they're showing that are on the team. Of course, our young rookies, Jacoby, Jonathan, and Jamal are not pictured on this, but they will be put on assignment from time to time with the G League, of course. Let's see. There they are, game day, putting up shots before the game, showing them getting their preparations in the 905 arena. The starting lineup was Chandler, Lawson, Rhoden, Omoruyi, and Kaminsky. Kaminsky's been a very interesting look so far, a very dominant player for the Raptors 905 so far, and I like it. Yeah, they were winning at halftime by 2, and yeah, it was a very close game all the way through, with both teams going back and forth with the lead, and then finally in the end, in overtime, the squadron just barely beating us by a 3-pointer. It's too bad. It really, really is too bad. Let's see. Toronto Tempo is on the street asking people about their thoughts, Canada, on the Toronto Tempo stuff. I love it. Kelly Olynyk coming in the game on his Instagram stories. And there's Dylan Disu doing his skills challenge basketball camp recently advertised, where you could go and learn from him on basketball stuff. So there's your Instagram stories real quick right there. A lot of 905 centric kind of stuff there. Yeah. Trevor saying the Bad Boys was the team everyone wanted to beat back then. Yeah, they want to beat them on the court, and in some ways, they want to beat them in the face. Also, they want to beat those guys in the face. I mean, Bill Laimbeer was really a smackable guy. Seriously, people hated Bill. Bill was so cocky and arrogant, and he was just such a thug too. He was so dirty, and I mean, admit it. Bill Laimbeer was one of the dirtiest players in the history of the NBA, and there's a reason why he was so hated. So hated. It is true. They wanted to beat them. But the funny thing was, those guys were so good, so together, and so good defensively and physically that it was very hard to beat that Detroit Pistons team. And if you were playing them that night, you knew you were in for a fight and you're going to have some bumps and bruises the next day. Yeah. Yeah. And Rodman was crazy. He was always like an X factor off the bench. He'd come in like energy. In some ways, he's very much like Chris for our team right now. Didn't start, came off the bench and was energy personified and crashing those boards and just making things happen. And even Dennis added that three-point shot near the end of his career where he would lob a three in every once in a while, more on the Bulls. But there were times when he was on the Pistons where he'd take a three all of a sudden and make it. And everybody would be like, whoa. So, yeah, in some ways, Chris Boucher channeling Dennis Rodman now comes very honest and true because the role that Rodman had at that time was not a starter. It was off the bench as a role player, defensive rebounder. Yeah, he was a badass, man. Oh, my gosh. Rodman was my favorite player at that time. He really, really was. Monique is saying that, hang on. I'm missing totally here. Oh, wait. Here we go. Where am I? It's saying, since you kind of missed my comment yesterday before I wrote it in late, guys, go read Prehistoric. It has everything you want to know. Yeah, I did bring up Prehistoric yesterday during the chat, and I did give a lot of kudos to Alex Wong and the Prehistoric book that people need to go and read that to fill out all the answers. In some ways, Alex Wong gives you some of the information about the power struggle early on with the Raptors franchise that I talk about with Alan Slate, John Bachove, and Steve Stavro, but he doesn't fill it totally in. You have to go online and do a little bit more research to understand and uncover the familial ties between Stavro and Batove. And that's where the true answer to why things happen is a family grudge. But yes, I highly encourage everybody to get and buy Prehistoric by Alex Wong, a fantastic history documentation of the genesis, the beginning of the Raptors franchise and how it was created. It's so good. Derps is saying, if Sack sells the team, absolutely. But yeah, laugh out loud. If Sack sells the team, you mean if they start like trading guys out in different ways, Derps? UC saying, bro, Norman Powell rocked an addition by subtraction hoodie. I love the shade throwing. Laugh out loud. Yeah, in some ways he's talking about Kawhi. Is that what he's doing? Seriously? I don't know. That's interesting. You know, that's so mean. In some ways, I thought they were tight because they're San Diego buds. But man, maybe there is a little bit of weirdness there. I don't know. Maybe Norman's still mad at Kawhi for missing his dap. There's that footage of when they were on the Raptors and Norman was trying to dap Kawhi and he just walks by him. I don't know. I thought they were really good close friends, and they probably are. But yeah, that's what I would think he means when he says addition by subtraction. That's funny. Nameless, I just want to thank you, Lex, for all your hard work and dedication to create the space for all of us Raptor freaks to come hang out every morning. I appreciate that, Nameless. Dap to you. Yeah, it's my pleasure. And honestly, I love this outlet. I love the Raptors so much, and I like talking about them. And I've realized before I did this channel, I would have the same conversations with different people that love the Raptors every day. And I would be like having a conversation with my dad on the phone. Then I talk to Stevie Roots on the phone. I'll be like, I'm repeating myself over and over again. Why don't I just make a place where I can say it all in one place and everybody can come get it? And then I don't have to keep saying it all throughout the day to my different friends that I talk Raptors with. That's kind of why I started doing this, is because I wanted to kind of just have my outlet to espouse on my opinions and feelings about the Raptors franchise and what's going on it. Because I feel like it matters. And in some ways, my opinion is very valid. Being a day oneer that's seen it very closely and paid very close attention and been very, very passionately number one Raptors fan, as far as that's my favorite number one team that I only dote on. And I have no other allegiances to anywhere else before the Raptors. And in some ways, not everybody is that way with their fandom with the Raptors since the beginning. They're maybe Leafs fans also, or they're Blue Jays, or they're fans of other NBA teams along with, or fans of players in the league also with being fans of the Raptors. No, I always had the Raptors number one. And even in the times where hockey forces were hurting us and the Raptors had no respect, I was feeling it and hurting with the Raptors and their good name in those very dark times, right from the start in the mid 90s, right on up until today. So in some ways, that is why I have a valid opinion on what's happening with the Raptors, is because I've been there with them since the start. And I have very, very much closely paid attention to them the whole 30 years. So if anybody's educated on talking about Raptors issues and things that have happened, it's this guy right here. It's this guy right here. Yeah, I appreciate you, Nameless, and dap to you, my paisano. That's right. Wayne's saying, I've heard many interviews involving Isaiah, and he's always been fair when speaking on the Raptors, apart from our first playoffs against the Knicks when he said we were going to get smoked. Yeah, that's where he was hurt, and I totally understand that, and he was wrong. We did get smoked in the very first playoffs and got swept by the Knicks. And it was a very short series because at that time it was a best of 5 and they swept us 3 games in a row. And there was only one playoff game played in Toronto at that time. And I went to that game. I had playoff tickets to the very first playoff game the Raptors played in Toronto, and I went to it. And yeah, that was tough. But then we circled back and we beat the Knicks the next year and got our first ever playoff series victory on the backs of Vince Carter and Alvin Williams. And I've loved seeing those highlights, especially last week when we were in New York and they were showing the Alvin and Vince killing the Knicks and their building in that series was awesome. Chris Childs also being involved in that. So yeah, there's a history there. There's a history there. And of course, Isaiah was salty towards us at that time. But you know what? He's smart, just like Damon. They circled around and they realized they're so instrumental and important to the beginning of our franchise that they should be celebrated and they should honor that part of their legacy. In some ways, the Raptor stuff, once again, is one of the most successful things Isaiah ever did after his playing career. That in some ways, a lot of the other stuff was failure. It's true. But the Raptor stuff was not a failure to me, honestly, what Isaiah Thomas did as the president of the Raptors. Seriously, I don't think he was a failure. I think he did a very good job. Yeah, and that's the other thing. And since he has been very fair to us on NBA TV, he's never taken pot shots at us. And in some ways, he's argued for us against other people that have been very negative and kind of putting us down. He's always been kind of loyal to us, guys. And when we won the championship, Isaiah felt it, guys. He felt it like a lot of the people like Vince felt it. Vince said he felt it when the Raptors finally won a championship in 2019. McGrady felt it too. The people that were there in the beginning to see the Raptors win a championship eventually, they were kind of like, wow, I was on a part of that path and that getting to this point. And that's something that they honor and in some ways they're proud of. And that's why I think that Isaiah is in good standing. I've never thought as Isaiah as an op. Maybe initially in the beginning, like you're talking about with the New York around the turn of the century when we were playing them in the playoffs and all that. But in some ways, I never really got mad at Isaiah. I understood he got burned by us and there was some hurt feelings. And in some ways, he's just going to be sensitive. He's going to act a certain way. That's it. Derps is saying probably take a few years for DeMar, but Kyle Lowry maybe now actually or soon enough. Yeah, I don't know. Lowry's still got to see through things in Philly with Nick. In some ways, Nick values Kyle so much, he wouldn't let Kyle go if he could. He needs Kyle because Kyle in some ways helps him coach on the floor and he's an essential ingredient to him. So I don't think Nick Nurse would be okay with him leaving, kind of like Miami's not okay with Jimmy Butler leaving. Spoelstra and Riley do not want Jimmy Butler to leave, even if Jimmy wants to leave. It's very, very interesting. Yeah. Nameless is saying, I partied with that Stoudemire guy when I was younger a few times, and let's just say drugs, lots and lots of le drug. Well, we know he got arrested with cannabis with Rasheed Wallace in the Hummer in Portland. Yeah, they were cruising around and they got pulled over and they had cannabis with them in that Hummer and they got in trouble. That was around the Jailblazers era of Portland Trailblazers where everybody's getting in trouble, Isaiah Ryder and all them. Yeah, I mean, Damon is Damon, and his private life is none of my business. If you partied with him in private and you saw things, well, we don't need to discuss them here. Damon Stoudemire is an upstanding coach for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets in the Atlantic Coast Conference now in college basketball. And you know what? He's a good guy. And in some ways, I love him coming clean about his regrets about leaving the Raptors. And he understands that he gave up, like I was saying to De'Aaron Fox earlier. You're the franchise tag. You're the guy everything revolves around in Toronto. And it's one of the best things he says in this documentary. I couldn't come into a better situation when I came into Toronto. He realizes this. And well, when Isaiah left because he was getting screwed over, Damon was like, my allegiance was to Isaiah. It's not to Toronto. And I want to leave now too. But he didn't have to do that. And he realizes that if he had just stayed in his spot, he could have maybe played with Vince Carter and gotten further in his career with Toronto. Because in some ways, when he went to Portland, he was just another Joe Schmo on the rotation, and he didn't have anything centered around him. And there were no, hierarchy of him keeping like a point guard starting spot. He could have gone, he was bounced the bench, and there was like all kinds of things that just weren't the same. He realized he just became another number on a team instead of being the focal point, the rookie of the year, the franchise face, the guy he was in Toronto. And that's part of why Damon feels like he screwed up, is because he didn't understand how good he had it in the Raptors at that time and how much we were going to get better quickly. He could see the Raptors playoff runs and imagine himself in those games against Iverson and the Sixers when we had that fantastic series in 2001, because he could have been there if he hadn't demanded himself out. But then again, if Damon had not done that, we wouldn't get Boogie Williams. We wouldn't have Alvin Williams in the way we do in our history and the real one, and as our color commentator for our games at this point. So there's a lot of everything has to happen the way it does for things to be the way they are. And it is all the way it's supposed to be. And no woulda, coulda, shoulda. Yeah, Wayne's saying we won that first series. No, we lost the first time we played the Knicks in the playoffs. It was in 99, and it was before 2000. 2000, we beat them. 2001, we beat them. In 2000, we lost. We lost that year to them. Unfortunately, it was a sweep. The Knicks swept us the first time we ever went into the playoffs. And then the next year, we beat them. And it was awesome. And then we played the Sixers the next series and lost. That's how it went down. Yeah. Let's see. Trevor's saying they're saying Raptors are sellers by the end of the trade deadline. Well, that's the way it looks because of our record. Some people have said we're buyers, and I didn't believe that when they said that. I don't know. I think that in some ways Bruce Brown is likely to get traded. Maybe Chris Boucher. Hopefully not Jakob Poeltl. I think those are the three names that are talked about the most right now. Bruce Brown's very, very likely. Very, very likely. But Chris and Jakob, I'm not too quick to part ways with them. In some ways, I want them to stay around. I know I've said it may be time for Chris to take off, but honestly, in recent games, I'm like, no, actually, I don't want Chris to go. Because honestly, he is fitting really well again all of a sudden right now. Yeah. And when he was getting DMPs and it looked like Darko didn't want to use him anymore, I was like, okay, maybe we can trade him. But at this point, you know what? He's playing so good right now. It's like maybe you trade him because he's worth so much. Nins is here. Good morning to Nins. Good morning, Raptor Freaks. Good morning to you, Raptor Freak Nins. Hope you're having a great snowy Saturday morning here at the end of 2024. Getting ready for the new year. Let's go. Tomorrow, of course, we're playing the Atlanta Hawks here in Toronto. This may be our best chance to win in the next little while. Obviously, maybe New Year's Day against Brooklyn, we get that rematch. I'll be going the game with Adriana. Hopefully, we can beat the Nets on Wednesday. But man, if we can beat the Hawks tomorrow, that'd be fantastic. I'll have the preview tomorrow morning, of course. That's right. Derp's just saying, since the East is so bad, Raptors can probably be both sellers and buyers, Trevor J. I mean, I don't know why we would buy and try and add people unless it really is like a young prospect that's kind of building on the line with our young nucleus. It's not like we want to buy a veteran and add them to it. Like the DeMar move doesn't make sense in that way. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I don't know what we are exactly. In some ways, why do we have to label it? Let's just let Bobby and Masai do their job. And whatever happens, happens. If they come across a trade that's just too good to pass up, then we'll see if it's either a buying or selling move. It could very well be it's a selling move. It's more likely, and that we're trading somebody for like really good assets for the future, whether it's draft picks or a very young player that is still in development to get to their potential. That's what I would think is going to be right now. Yeah, Kareem's saying, is Frank Kaminsky that bad as a rim protector or a defender that he's basically expelled from the NBA? Would like to see him in purple as a possible 10-day. This is something that Kaz was talking about in the stream yesterday that, you guys got to understand. Y'all think that the G League is just for young development, but that's not totally true. The G League is also for guys who are at the end of their career just taking one last ditch attempt to make the league still. And that's what Frank Kaminsky is right now. In some ways, he's a good player still. He's a good enough player professionally that he can play in the G League, but maybe not good enough to be in the league. I mean, Kareem, you look at him. He's tall, he's long, but he doesn't have a lot of muscle. And in some ways, the things he can do on the Raptors 905 are not things he can do in the NBA because it's a little bit bigger and stronger league. And that's why he's at that level. And that's why he can do the things he can do as a 3-point shooting center on the Raptors 905. But don't hold your breath. He's coming up. I don't see it. I mean, unless, the Raptors know something or think something internally, they're like, yeah, we could get Kaminsky up and call him up to the Raptors level and utilize him in this way. But I don't think it's likely. In some ways, he's just like Tony Snell. He's just like Patrick McCaw. He's just a player that's hanging around in the G League and just kind of like getting those last hurrahs and last ditch attempts to maybe possibly make the big league again. And I know some of y'all have even said they should be an age limit to be in the G League. No, that shouldn't be true. That's restrictive. And it's up to the teams to invite who they think should be around and be around. And if there's an older player that's in their 30s that actually can still play and possibly, the other thing that these older players do is they mentor young players. We had Jody Meeks, former Raptors champion, on our G League team a couple years ago, way past his prime. And why is he around on the team? Well, in some ways, he was teaching those youngsters how to be a pro, kind of like Garrett Temple is on our team now. So we got to consider that is a place on rosters in the G League for older players to play. Amir Johnson was on G League Ignite up until a couple of years ago, and very, very important as a player coach kind of on the team as far as playing and being available as another big on the team, but also being there more as a mentor and a coach for the young players on G League Ignite. So, yeah, there's a lot to it. And in some ways, we don't want to be ageist and say, yeah, this is only for young people. Only young people should be in the G League. Well, that's not how it is. People like Justice Winslow need one last chance to try and make the league just one more time. Yeah. I don't know if Frank will ever come up. He could if it's like last year at the end of the year, but I'd rather Eugene Omeroy before him. I'd rather maybe Quincy Guerriere before him. But who knows? Anything could happen. And hopefully our injuries are gone so that we don't have any need to bring up anybody from the G League this year like we did last year at the end of the year. Yeah, so we'll have to see. Blackhawk saying, looked like Coach was playing Shamshay more than he has in the past. His development is being prioritized. You know what I really think, and this is what struck me yesterday, Neil, watching the G League game, was that the whole Showcase Cup for Shamshay was like a preliminary, like a appetizer, a preview. Kind of like welcome to the NBA. We're going to ease you in with just a little bit of experience. In some ways, you're not going to get this, you're not going to get that. We're going to bring you along slowly. And well, now that it rolled into the regular season, they're like, now Shamshay, now is your time to make more of an impact. We're going to give you rotational minutes, and you're going to be more important. And he was very important early in the game. Shamshay had a plus minus that was very, very important for the Raptors. Now his stat line is not that great. He was 0 for 4 in 20 minutes. He had 3 offensive rebounds with 7 rebounds. He was rebounding really well. 2 assists, 1 block, no turnovers, a +5 with 0 points. But when he was out there in the first quarter, in the first half, he was a +16 at halftime, guys. So he is definitely having a winning impact as a presence defensively and rebounding wise. And that was kind of similar to what happened when he got put in the games on this road trip with the Raptors recently. He got put in 2 games last week with the Raptors in New York and in Memphis. And both times he had some sort of defensive impact of presence where it changed things as far as people trying to attack the basket because he was lurking. So, yeah, Shamshay in some ways is getting turned on a little bit more to be utilized and be more serious. And maybe it's because partly he's starting to understand the game a little bit more. There's still way too many times in games where I'm watching Shamshay and there's opportunities that happen around him he's just not getting or seeing and not executing on. And that's just him not knowing what he's doing yet. So there's going to be more and more that he realizes, well, I could actually do this at this point, and boom, this would really help my team. Because some of that is getting like glossed over and not catching in his brain, and he's not seeing stuff that he could be doing. That's one of the biggest problems right now with him. Going over the rest of the box score, we had Kaminsky, talking about him just a second ago, 22 minutes yesterday, 5 of 11. He missed all 4 of his threes, 1 of 2 at the free throw line, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 1 turnover, a minus 16 and 12 points in 22 minutes. Yeah, that's not that great. The debut of Jarrett Rhoden, 31 minutes in the starting lineup, 5 of 12 from the field, 1 of 5 from 3, 1 of 1 from free throw line, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 0 turnovers, 13 points for Jarrett Rhoden. I did AJ Lawson. He had a stat stuffing. He was 8 of 23. He could have been a little bit more efficient. 2 of 10 from 3. He was taking a lot of shots. 2 of 3 from the free throw line, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, a +2 with 21 points in 36 minutes. Charlie Brown Jr., a disaster, 1 of 8 from the field, 0 for 6 from 3, made both his free throws, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, 5 points in 26 minutes. Just wash. Tyreek Key, bad game, 0 for 1 from 3, 0 for 1 at the free throw line, 1 rebound in 8 minutes, and 3 fouls. And then Evan Gilliard, 3 for 9 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 turnover, a minus 17 with 7 points in 16 minutes. Yeah. In some ways, there were certain 905ers that are playing very well, and then other guys are just dead notes on the piano. I'm telling you, man, dead notes on the piano. Yeah. Let's see what else you guys are saying. Let's see. Derps is saying, damn right at Blackhawk. Yeah, Shamshay is getting utilized different, and he's getting more responsibilities. Obviously, coming into some Raptors games recently, he's played 3 Raptors games now, and now also getting a more prominent role on the 905 level also. Wayne saying, is Isaiah Thomas from Boston Celtics any relation to Isaiah from Detroit Raptors? Always wondered. No, they're not related at all. They just have the same name. Isaiah Thomas, the more recent Isaiah Thomas that played for the Celtics, that is still currently trying to make the league, is not the same guy, and nowhere near the same accolades, and not related to each other in any kind of way. Yeah, Mo's saying, it will be so nice to win tomorrow back in the arena. Such a good time to always been a fan of the afternoon games growing up too. That was an interesting part of the documentary the other day, talking about the noon games on Sundays at the Scotiabank Arena, Air Canada Center. I remember working those games when I worked there, and they were such a pain in the ass. For me, it was tough because I worked at the bars as my other job. And quite often I would work the night before a noon game on Sunday on a Saturday night till like 4 a.m. and not get any sleep hardly, and go straight to work and still be kind of like hungover, a little drunk still, honestly, and not totally slept on those noon games. And they were weird, man. But it's true. It's kind of funny to hear the Raptors had an advantage from those noon games because of the nightlife and things like Darrell Walker taking Michael Jordan out and whining and dining him in Toronto on purpose to try and mess him up, especially in that famous Bulls versus Raptors game where we won, and that bank shot that Jordan hit, but it was a second too late. Yeah. I mean, those games were fun. And it's weird that the NBA doesn't let us play those games anymore. Like, we don't play at noon on Sundays ever anymore. And in some ways, I wish we did. I really do. I don't know what time the game is tomorrow. What time is the game tomorrow? Is that game tomorrow actually at noon? Because in some ways, that would be a real throwback if it was. I think it's more likely to be at 6 or something like that. Yeah, it's at 6 once again. They made the new starting time on Sundays for the Raptors home games 6 p.m. Yeah, in some ways, I wish it was still noon, especially the advantage they were talking about in that documentary. Yeah. Let's see. Wayne saying Raptors wish list is for continued development of Oshai and Mobo. We need to see better finishing at the rim by Mobo and power finishing at the rim by Oshai. Skill set already there, aggression next. I think these guys are doing a good job with what you're talking about right here. They can't be absolutely perfect. Mobo has not missed as many bunnies as a rookie should. He's converted way more than actually missing. So I can't get on him for that. And Oshai is one of the greatest finishers in college history in recent years. And that's shown that that's translating this year. Last year when he showed up in the trade from Utah, he wasn't really finishing well, or he was awkward. He wasn't finding his offensive characteristics the proper way last season. But Darko did a good job of reorienting him in our rotation and what he's supposed to be doing, that now we see him very much a driver to the basket who finishes through contact in very athletic ways. So I see what you're saying here, and I think that they're both already doing really well at this. In some ways, I think that they're doing fine at this actually, and that these are both strengths for both of them already. Monique saying W stream, W vibes, go Raptors for life. Keep at it always, Lex. Raptor free crew strong forever. Same for you. And you keep strong, Monique. I hope you get stronger and healthier and feeling better every single moment of this day. That's right. Cool Cat saying we really need length on our team. So hopefully we do something at the trade deadline. Well, what is the point of this year? Is it to try and salvage the season? I say keep going the way we are already. It's not like we're trying to call in the cavalry and save the season. And maybe there are glaring holes of not having enough length and center size that me and Cool Cat have cried about for years now on this channel about having center depth. Well, maybe Masai and Bobby have something in the works. And like we've said recently, they're looking at getting a center in this draft coming up. Not in the first round, like someone had said, but actually in the second round, because there's a lot of good prospects to possibly take in the second round that could be very useful. So we'll have to see. I don't think we're buyers in this. We may be a seller, and we may be not doing anything and just kind of going through the trade season as we are and continuing to do what we're doing, because at the end, we're going to have a very good draft pick. And that's what I think is probably likely. Trevor's saying we need another center big to go along with Yak and one more long forward like 6'10". I completely agree. Completely agree with Trevor. Mo's saying I'm still waiting to rock my IQ jersey. Come on, IQ. I'm totally with you on this. Totally with you on this. We need IQ to come back so that Monique can wear her Emmanuel Quickly signed jersey that she got for her birthday this summer at the Raptor Freak Hangout for her birthday party at the NBA restaurant. I want Mo to be able to wear that jersey, IQ, because you're suited up yourself. She wants to suit up with your 5, and you need to put your 5 on too. I'm totally with Mo on this, and I'm going to give her a dunk. And here's wishing that she does get to wear that Emmanuel Quickly jersey sooner than later, because I'm sick of this, Emmanuel. I'm sick of seeing you in your fancy clothes on the sidelines, because you do look good and you got good style. But we want to see the style of the Skipley on the court, and you added to the barbecue mix. That's what I want to see right there. Blackhawk saying, Lex, you and 905 coach are saying the same thing about Shamshay. However, yesterday was different. He got more time and he was trying to score in the paint, but was not finishing correctly. Yeah, he's got to slow down. He's got to slow down. And in some ways, he still needs work with his footwork and his awareness. Those are the two biggest areas that I could see that Ulrich needs the most help with, is his awareness and his footwork. There's often passes that are getting sent to him and he's not ready for them or not even paying attention. So in some ways, he's got to be more aware and ready. And also, he could use his feet a lot better with how he's moving around out there in some ways, so that he'll get better rhythm and better outcomes with him trying to go to the basket. So there's a lot of work that can be done with Shamshay to improve him. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 6 p.m. tomorrow. Atlanta Hawks come to Toronto. Let's win this game and end this losing streak, Toronto. That's right. Yeah, 6 p.m. Let's go. Cool Cat saying, let's not to salvage anything. It's about building our team at every opportunity. Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. As far as like, if we can add another piece in the halfway through the year that's going to help us for the long run. Yeah. I mean, once again, I still feel like we haven't gotten a fair chance to look at our team fully healthy and understand what we have already. And I don't totally like messing with the recipe until we've actually tasted it, is kind of what I've been saying. Until we get Emmanuel, Scotty, and RJ out there for like a 10-game run at least, maybe 20 games for the rest of the end of the season, or 30 games, God forbid, we could get these guys on the court together for 30 games healthy. We can't really gauge what we should do roster move wise completely. We do know we need more bigs. Yes, I could say that's probably the truth, that we need another center or power forward just to bolster our defensive presence around the basket and our rebounding for sure. I could say that's for sure. All right, let's do the classic card real quick. Yeah. Blackhawks saying, I already like them. They will fit in perfectly. There you go. All right, let's see. Oh, wait, I see. I missed a couple comments here. Hang on. Let me read these right here. Mo's saying, I got the Toronto versus everyone jacket for Christmas. Very cool, Mo. That's very, very cool. We'll have to see you rocking it at the game. And Blackhawks saying at Trevor, look at the Ivijic brothers in the second round for cheap centers with different aspects of their game. I will be doing a scout on them very soon. The calendar is going to flip next week, and it'll be open season for Alexis Scout of the Day. That's right. I love that segment. In some ways, I don't want to do it too early, but once the calendar hits, I'll start scouting the prospects for the draft for 2025. And yeah, we enjoy me looking at them because I seriously, truly do not watch college basketball. And I really do enjoy scouting players. So you guys get to see how my brain works and whether I think a player is going to be good or not in the NBA just from me cold watching them and kind of looking them over and me doing a scout. I'm sure Messiah and Bobby, maybe they get something from my first impression also when they see that. All right, once again, I'm going to pick a more recent card from one of the cards that my niece and nephew gave me last week for Christmas. And let's see who we get today. All right, this may be too easy. So once again, be quick and write in the full name. Don't half-ass it. Don't let somebody seagull it. And hopefully you'll get the classic card points for today. All right, y'all, hang on. Here it is. And I'm not going to show it too close. You guys can probably see it from there. Who is that? What is the classic card of the day today? If you can see it, just write it in as soon as you can see it. I don't want to give it away too easy. This is only 100 points. This is too easy, guys. So classic card of the day. Who is that, y'all? Can you tell? I'm going to bring these cards to the 905 game on the 19th. And if there's any cards you see that you like, you can get them from me. And maybe you like this one. Maybe you're a fan of this guy. Is anybody getting it yet? I mean, it's pretty obvious at this point. You guys should see who that is. This isn't a classic card, by the way. This is a card from last year. JJ Redick, that's pretty funny. No, it's not JJ Redick. Mike's here. Okay, Logical Raptors fanatic has returned, and he is going to get the card. It is Austin Reeves. Look at Mike. Merry Christmas to you, Mike. I hope you had a very good holiday season, Logical Raptors fanatic. Y'all, Project Truth always. My guy Mike is one of my favorites. Yeah, that is Austin Reeves on this card right there. So good job. Slug DZ thought it was Connect. No, it's not Scottie Pippen Jr. either. That is Austin Reeves, the golden boy for the Lakers. And I'm going to put in Mike getting the 50 points today for Austin. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, not a totally difficult classic card there, but Logical is on it, my guy. Logical Raptors fanatic. Boom. I'm going to put the whole name in. Yeah, and you get 100 for that, Mike. Mike gets 100. Boom. Whoa, what happened there? Hang on. Hey now. There we go. All right, boom goes the dynamite. There you go. All right. I love it. All right, we got the classic card out of the way just now. That's funny. You went Austin, JJ Redick, fiercely. Yeah. Yeah. Wayne's saying, okay, listening to you guys seems like the consensus is that Shamshe is not yet a basketball player, has the natural build, but not the intangibles that can be taught through development. You know what it is? I mean, Wayne, let's think about this. The kid is 18. He's going to turn 19 this week, like in just a few days. He'll be 19 in 2 days. He'll be 19 years old. He's absolutely the youngest player in the league. But not only is he the youngest player, he's the only player in the league that has no high school or college play at all. He's come straight from Basketball Africa League, and he's played professionally there for maybe 1 or 2 professional seasons. The other thing we got to realize is Shamshe was introduced to basketball late, just like Siakam. He's introduced around the age of 12. So you do the math. The man's only been playing basketball for 6 years. So in some ways, you've got to understand that he is such a project. And this is part of the reason why he is being stashed away by Masai. And he's a long-term thing. And, listen, there's a lot of parallels between him right now and Giannis when he first came over. It's very similar. And Akumto was not a finished product when he showed up on the shores of North America. He needed a lot of work, and he was the same body size and same body type as Shamshe. So it all looks good. And listen, Shamshe's a smart enough kid. He's going to get it together, and he's going to figure it out. But his instincts aren't exactly right. And in some ways, he doesn't totally understand his capabilities in his frame that he can exert on the court and do talent-wise. I see it. There's opportunities that are missed that he's just not picking up on that he will figure out over time with confidence, experience, reps, and more instruction. And that is what's coming down the road, man. So yeah, don't worry about it. In some ways, he's getting the right instruction. He's getting brought along in baby steps. And let's see where he is in like a year from now, 2 years from now, and we may be very delighted. Once again, he's in the system with Darko, the developer. And it could very well be that Darko is going to get a lot out of Shamshe in the years to come because of his developing genius. So we have to have faith in Coach Darko and Masai and the Raptors organization to handle Ulrich Shamshay in a way much better than the Raptors did with 18-year-old Tracy McGrady almost 30 years ago. So that's the thing. We live and learn from our mistakes. And the Raptors organization has had mistakes with shakeups in the ownership, with mishandling rookies, mishandling trades, not having respect for our team. And well, we've learned and we've gotten better from it, and we've succeeded from it. And we will continue to go forward from the lessons that we've learned as a team in the past and not make those same mistakes. And I think that having things set up with somebody like Shelby around our team for the players is going to help Shamshay not have the same 18-year-old experience that Tracy McGrady had in the late 90s. So there's a lot to this, man. There's a lot to this. We're going to get him right. It's just that he's so green and so young. And in some ways, Masai jumped in the queue to take him this year in this draft. He may have should have been drafted this year coming up, but Masai wanted dibs, and he went and got Prince Shamshay before anybody could get him this year, right at the end of the draft. So in some ways, that's part of it also, Wayne. We got to remember that this year maybe he shouldn't have been around the NBA yet, and we jumped in line to get him down with us. That's right. Mike saying respect. Respect to you, Mike. One of my longtime guys. I know we've had our ups and downs, but I respect you so much, Mike. Your knowledge, you're breaking things down, your understanding of certain NBA minutia that I just don't like to get involved with. I appreciate you. You're a highly valued member of our community. And you know what? I'd like to meet you someday, Mike. You want to go to the 905 game on the 19th in Mississauga? Let's go out there, man. Let's go out there. Wayne saying, I do understand, hence my point, not discounting just real-time analysis. Yeah, I mean, he's not yet a basketball player. Maybe that's the statement that bugs me, because he is a basketball player. He's just, he doesn't know what he's doing yet. Most saying, Wayne, go listen to Joe Turmo on Ulrich Shamshay. Joe is the coach of Ulrich over in Cameroon. And he's the guy who discovered him and brought him to the basketball court from his family and asked permission from Ulrich Shamshay's uncle whether he could take him with him. And him and his grandmother and his sisters and people and his mother were the ones who were in charge of saying, yes, you can take Shamshay. And the grandmother very much felt the vibes of Coach Joe and said, he's okay. I feel he's a good person. He can take young Ulrich, and I feel like we can trust him. And that's, yeah, he has a very interesting insight on Shamshay and his early career and getting him going over there, because he's the guy who worked with him very closely. So, yeah, his interviews on Shamshay are very, very enlightening for sure. Let's see. Mike's saying, have you talked about the Rusty Buckets Raptors championship story video, the most unlikely championship or something? No, I haven't seen any footage or something like that. I don't know what you mean with the Rusty Buckets. I mean, honestly, we could go and say the Raptors winning the championship was something that the NBA probably did not see coming, and that they maybe learned afterwards they don't want ever to happen again for different reasons. But you know what? We're crazy. We're going to try and do it against the odds. And as Raptor freaks, we got to believe that a second Larry O'Brien's going to come to Toronto eventually at some point. Masai believes it'll happen. He's prophetic in some of the things he says. And he said, with or without me, Toronto will win again. I believe in this city. It's just how it is. And I believe Masai when he says that. I hope it is with him, because he deserves the second one with us too. I believe that. Yeah, I really do. Let's see. Trevor's saying we all need to sit back and watch the apple tree grow and give good food and nourishment to flourish. Oh my gosh, that is a great statement, Trevor. I agree. I totally agree. And Blackhawk saying Shamshay serves a bigger purpose for the front office. If they can successfully develop Shamshay in 2 years on two-way, then they have another avenue for bringing in talent early to build center of the future. Well, this is the classic way of doing it. You get a young player that's not totally ready, and you really build them up over time, and you take patience, and you don't rush them. And in some ways, the NBA has not been very allowable for projects. And in some ways, well, we're doing an old school kind of project with Shamshay, and hopefully it'll pan out in the end. You know, I'm serious. The way that his body type is and his athletic gifts, he could very much be the second coming of Giannis. And there's no reason why he can't do anything that Giannis does right now. Seriously, if he gets the smarts and figures it out, he could be very much the Giannis that Masai wanted before in the Giannis sweepstakes, and that he got him this way. That's right. Wayne saying, when is part 2 of the documentary being aired? I've heard conflicting things. Somebody tried to say it's tomorrow, but that's not true. I think it's January 29th is when it comes out. The second part won't come out until the end of January. So it's about a month from now. We'll get the rise the part that's about Vince Carter. And in some ways, it'll coincide with the 25th anniversary of his dunk contest and the celebrating we're going to do for Vince in February on the 12th when we play the Cleveland Cavaliers just before the All-Star break. We're going to do a second round of celebration for Vince Carter and his dunk exploits. Just so y'all know, we're not done honoring Vince. There's going to be another whole Vince Carter night on February the 12th, and he'll be back again for that. Mike's saying he goes over all the moves and seasons leading up to the championship. And it's a decent watch. It's a solid outsider's view, in my opinion. Well, honestly, I think people that love the NBA and can watch the NBA can really like respect and really kind of like what the Raptors did to get their championship. If they're very fair and they're not biased against us and hate us, they could see it all and look at it and be like, wow, this is really actually exceptional in some ways. I'm interested to see what you're talking about. You said it's called Rusty Buckets or something like that. I'll have to go and look at this Rusty Buckets championship story for the Raptors. All right, Mike, if you could post the link in the comments on this stream afterwards so I could find it, that'd be awesome because I'll watch this and see what they're saying. I'll see what they're saying. Cool Cat saying we have to be patient with Shamshay. Same time was allowed Giannis to be one baller. We need give him time, 3 years development. Yeah, because like this is true. Shamshay, well, Giannis is like that too. Like Giannis didn't show up and he's a ready package right away. He had under 10 scoring average his rookie year, and he had to have time to get used to the NBA and grow into what he is right now. I don't think people remember the early career of Antetokounmpo and just how much he wasn't like a hit out of the park. He wasn't like LeBron showing up and right away he was a certain thing. He wasn't like Shaq coming in and dominating right away. No, Giannis had a learning curve. In his first couple years, he wasn't as good as he is right now. He definitely grew into what he is. Yeah. Trevor's saying the second part is on the 29th of January, not tomorrow. It's not coming out tomorrow. It's too quick. If it comes out tomorrow and I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But the date I saw was the January 29th is when the next one's coming out. So it's a month from now is what I'm saying. Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's January 29th, guys. If they come out with it on tomorrow, then I'm wrong. But I saw the date 129. You guys may be getting confused and saying that it's going to be out tomorrow, but it's not. It's going to be out in January. They're going to wait a month. I could see that because they're probably fine editing these episodes too. It's not like they threw these together all at the same time. They're probably putting them together on the fly, and we'll see how many episodes we get to build up to the championship stuff. Yeah. Blackhawk saying Raptors identified corner threes as a weak area for teams before 2019. Now every team has improved their corner threes. Raptors will get back to championship, but they will take advantage of something else. Yeah, we'll just have to see. I mean, they have to be inventive. You know, the NBA is a copycat league, but there isn't the ability for every one of the 30 teams to do everything exactly the same way because of limited resources and talent and player pool. And in some ways, you know, you got to look at the market of what's available and maybe like start brainstorming about what could be possible and the trends that are coming up with the league in the near future and get ahead of them and try and figure it out. I think the long arm monster theory that the Raptors had in recent years was actually very sound, and positionless stuff actually did kind of hit the league. It's just that in some ways we didn't have the right combination of players to really execute it correctly at the end there with Nick Nurse. So it is what it is. In some ways, I trust Bobby and Masai in this way. And also Darko. Darko's a student of the game. He's constantly reading all things basketball and taking in the ideas and the theories of basketball theory on the most current level at the highest level. And that's why I really trust our coach, is because he's a student. He's not just a teacher. And he's learning on the job, and he's learning how the game's evolving. And he is shaping his procedures and theories and ways he wants this team to play by those kind of deep conversations. In fact, he said many times that him and Pat Delaney and Coco and Vin Bagnani and Jama Maalea and all them on the coaching staff, Evo, they sit around and talk about basketball theory and basketball ideas just in their off time. They could be at a restaurant on the road. They could be sitting in a hotel lobby. They could be waiting in the airport, and they're just sitting around talking about this, basketball, that, and they're brainstorming and thinking about ideas and creative ways to do things in the NBA better. That's the way they are. They don't take any time off. In fact, this is part of why Darko says he needs to take time away from the game and spend time with his wife and his kid because he's such a basketball nerd. He's 24/7 and he can't put it down. It's just like he's honestly in a group chat with his coaches all the time, probably having this conversation all the time about improving the Raptors by looking at the state of the world of basketball and how it's ever evolving. Yeah, that's part of it right there. Boom. That's part of it right there. Boom goes the dynamite. Dynamite. JJ Walker. Dynamite. All right, let's see. Wayne's saying 29th of which month? I'm pretty sure it's January, guys. I don't think they're going to turn around and put it out that quick. They give it at least a month to between these episodes, maybe the least a week, but it's not going to be like 4 days later, guys. I'm telling you. Trevor's saying the NBA wanted the Raptors just to be another bottom feeder team, but we wanted a championship, and no one was stopping what God has installed for you. No man can stop it. I love that. I love that, Trevor. That's some Blues Brothers stuff right there. We're on mission from God, and we're going to go do what we're going to do no matter what. You guys may have intended that we were going to just be a bottom feeding team that you could push around and bully and be a 20-win game team every year. But no, we had higher aspirations as a city, as Toronto is, and we went above and beyond, and we did it. And that's right. And that's why we need to do it again. That's right. Let's see. Wayne saying, generic question. Do you prefer games played by using hands or feet or a combination of both? Well, I'm a huge basketball fan. I'm not a soccer fan. So I can't really, I'm obviously more a hands guy. But a combination of both is really what basketball is because footwork is important in basketball. And we've seen a lot of success in former soccer players that come into the NBA, like Pascal, Steve Nash, Akeem Olajuwon. Olajuwon also played handball, which was a huge, huge factor in why Akeem was one of the greatest NBA players ever. It really informed his steals and blocks as a big man, as a center. So, those are all important skills for basketball. To me, I mean, I don't know how I answer this. I'll just say I'm a basketball fanatic. That's the numero uno sport for me, and I prefer that sport out of all other games. How about that? Blackhawk saying, apparently DeMar was stopping in, hence why we traded for Kawhi, a.k.a. Mr. Not Passing the Ball for the fun of it. Okay, I'm trying to remember this. What are you saying? Apparently DeMar was stopping it, hence why we traded for Kawhi, aka Mr. Not Passing the Ball for the fun of it. Stopping what? What was DeMar stopping? I mean, listen, I don't want to drag DeMar through the mud or anything like that. And in some ways, we don't need to drag Kawhi through the mud either. I mean, I don't know. In some ways, I don't even want to go here right now. In some ways, the trade of DeMar DeRozan from the Raptors is a touchy subject, and I'm not gonna down him. I'm not gonna dump on him because DeMar was a sacrifice to get our championship, and I'll respect him instead. Mike's saying we lost Bosch 2010 because no one wanted to be here, and we became champions 9 years later. Complete reverse. That's a good statement right there, and that says a lot. We had two most important franchise players turn their backs on us and not honor that they want to be a part of our legacy or our alumni. Now Vince has come back in the fold, and he's okay at this point. I don't know if Bosch ever will at this point. He has no reason to want to. In some ways, his chips are with Miami, and he can ignore his Raptors rookie to his rest part of his history until he got to Miami for the rest of his life, and he has no problem with that. In some ways, McGrady is similar to that because honestly, McGrady's years in Toronto were his very beginning, and he didn't accomplish anything here. He left and he did everything in Orlando and Houston after us. So, I mean, I get that those players that, they don't have to be full-fledged alumni. At least McGrady respects the Raptors organization at this point and acknowledges it. He may not have had the best time when he was here, but he doesn't poo-poo us. And in some ways, he has expressed regrets about leaving to go to Orlando and not pairing up with Vince and seeing what could have been possible in the 2000s if he had stuck around. So that's why I give McGrady a pass, is because he's been very remorseful about his quick exit from Toronto in his early career and that he wonders what could have been if he'd stayed here. So, yeah, I don't get mad at Tracy, but I also understand why he doesn't embrace his Raptor roots as much as like somebody Vince would, because Vince had to. In some ways, we put him on the map just as much as he put himself on the map here, and we needed both each other. And McGrady, in some ways, the success here didn't happen his early roots are here, and that's different. But also at the same time, he respects that and he doesn't dump on us. And I've also heard Tracy say glowing things about the Raptors organization, and he's been proud that we won the championship. I haven't heard jack shit from Chris on that. So there's differences in these different guys here. Differences. Fiercely saying, what is meant for you will happen. Let's go, Raptors. Bye, fam, and W Stream. Peace out, MJ. Hope you have a fantastic Saturday. And Cool Cat saying, I remember Jason Kidd, his coach put Giannis as point guard to see the floor and develop his ball handling. See the results now. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Shamshay has passing chops. He has really good initial passing chops. He's a good passer. So some of this stuff that Giannis does in that way, it's there, and the natural talent is there for it. So yeah, that's something that is already there with him. We just need to extract and get the good habits and the understanding and the awareness of what is possible. Wayne saying, not a hockey fan and don't play the game, but I think ice hockey requires the ultimate skill in skating and hand coordination. That's an olive branch to our cousins that we respect their game. I'm not going to say hockey isn't hard to play. I've never played hockey at any level in my life. I've often wondered if I'd be a good hockey player because I have Canadian and Scandinavian roots. I'm the right build. I mean, I'm 6'4", almost 6'5", and I'm very quick on my feet. And I'm very, very agile. In some ways, that is what a good hockey player is. And plus, I'm very strong too. So it's like I've always wondered if I had stayed in Canada as a kid and gotten to play hockey at junior levels, if I had blossomed into a pretty good hockey player. Because half my family's from Manitoba and my other half of my family's from like Sweden and Estonia. So it's like the roots and the DNA of my background and even my body type and my athletic skills are very apropos to hockey. And I'll never know what would it could have been because I moved to Tallahassee. And instead, I learned how to play basketball and became a basketball player. And I'm not as good as a basketball player as I probably would have been as a hockey player. But alas, I never learned how to ice skate. I have a lot of respect for ice hockey players and athletes in general. You know, some people say that race car drivers are athletes. Okay, maybe. Some people say golfers are athletes. Yeah, right. You know, but hockey players are definitely athletes. Hockey players are definitely athletes. Yeah. Blackhawk saying, Mr. Not pass the ball for the fun of it is Kawhi, antidote from Norman Powell. Nick Nurse passed the ball for fun of it, and Kawhi said, no, I'm not doing it. Yeah, I heard that part. We talked about it for a second with Norman telling the story to Draymond Green on his podcast recently about how Nick asked Kawhi to pass it to other people. And during the Milwaukee Eastern Conference Finals in our championship run, and Kawhi said, nah, I'm not doing that. He just deadpan said, nah, I'm not interested in doing that. And Nick had nothing to answer that. And all the other guys started laughing. It was in a team meeting. Yeah, that's just Kawhi. Kawhi's hilarious, but he was right. In some ways, him calling his own number carried us. And it was very effective to get the Larry OB. So I can't argue with his logic there. Y'all, we're celebrating Isaiah Thomas today. You know, they're trying to malign him right now on Sportsnet in this documentary series. It's not fair. The man was a success on the Raptors. Don't get it twisted. He drafted 3 very excellent draft picks, and he was right. He went against the popular vote of Ed O'Bannon. So come on now. Let's have some respect for Isaiah. It's not his fault that he got sold a certain situation, and then they pulled the rug out from underneath him and changed the rules on him. And then he exited because it wasn't what he wanted. You know, that's everybody's right to change their mind on things if something gets changed in the deal. And that's what happened with Isaiah. Don't think that he deserted us. Don't think that he did it on purpose to sewer our team. No, he was forced out by an ownership group that did not want him running the team anymore. And it's unfortunate. I wish that he had stayed in there. In my world, he would have stayed and Batov would have stayed, and it would have been Slate and Petty that are around the team instead. Because that alternate universe, who knows? Maybe we are better off and healthier throughout the whole 2000s with our team and our franchise, because it got real ugly once Vince left, when Rob Babcock traded him. It got real, real ugly for about 10 years there. And that's the thing right there. That's what I'll say about that. Yeah, Mike's saying hockey isn't easy. The physics of the ice changes how things are done. Yeah, I won't poo-poo on that. I won't poo-poo on that. It can be a dangerous sport too. It can be very, very dangerous with the hard impacts, the concussions, and even the steel blades of the skates. So it can be a very dangerous sport. Yeah, it's just something I don't know enough about. It's very foreign to me. And that's why I can cover the Raptors in this kind of way without having hockey in my head. Most Canadians have a certain percentage of their sports mind taken up with hockey stuff. And I don't, because I was in Florida my whole childhood and I wasn't raised on Leafs hockey. I was raised on Florida State Seminoles football and Detroit Pistons, Orlando Magic's NBA basketball. And then the Raptors came, and that was my team after that. That was my team after that. So that's part of why, in some ways, I'm an anomaly, is because I was always Raptors first. I never, ever had a passion or love for hockey in any kind of way as a Canadian growing up in Florida and not having anything to do with that sport. So that's the big part of it right there. Yeah. Yeah. Blackhawk saying, I'm going to start wearing high heeled boots around Lex so I can enjoy the air up there with him. That'll be fun. You know, I hope you can come back for the Valley Suns game on January the 19th. It was so nice to see you at that game. And yeah, I hope you can come back. We're going to come sit down near you this time and come sit down there. Yeah. Blackhawk said, I always viewed Isaiah's time with the Raptors as positive and revolutionary. He was absolutely giving us cred right away. And in some ways, the Grizzlies lacked that. Who did they have? Stu Jackson. And Stu Jackson was nobody at that time. And Isaiah Thomas brought a respect to our team immediately by being around our team, that it was absolutely a leg up and helping us and doing things that we were doing. Damon Stoudemire, part of the reason why he didn't mind the booze is because he had Isaiah Thomas who believed in him coming there, and he was an idol to Damon. It's like Isaiah Thomas, it believes in me. He wants me to come play for the Raptors in another country. I'm there for him. And that's something that people need to remember, that in some ways, a lot of these guys who got involved with the Raptors early, whether it's John Sally, whether it's, Oliver Miller, whether it's Alvin Robertson, that part of it that made it bona fide was Isaiah's presence, and that made it okay. And some of those guys were like, yeah, this is a joke. And some ways we're on an expansion team. We're losing a lot and it's not fun. And we're in Canada and it's weird, but at least Isaiah's in charge. And I know that this is going to make things more like legit because he is involved and his name is around this. And people got to remember that. They got to remember that. Thanks for the cutoff, Mo. I'm just about 2.5 hours. I'm going to get out of here. Blackhawk saying every business has up and down moments. Learn from the down and excel on the up. Exactly. Exactly. And we learned the lessons. These may not have been Masai's mistakes because he wasn't around, but he can look to the past of the history of the Raptors and understand the pitfalls and the down things that happen. And in some ways, this is very informative for someone like Teresa Resch with starting the Toronto Tempo, is learn the lessons from the Raptors ahead of time so you don't make the same mistakes with our WNBA team, Teresa, is what I'll say there, because there's a lot of lessons to be learned in the sports business world from early Raptors history that you don't want to repeat and make the same mistakes yourself. Yeah, Mike's saying Bibby was talking on the Mike Brown firing and talked about how in Vancouver no one cared about winning or losing. Yeah, I mean, they had no sense of direction. In some ways, it was a joke, and they were really like the whipping team of the whole league. They just got beat by everybody. And the Vancouver Grizzlies were never successful. The Raptors got to success within 5 years of their existence, and that's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. And in some ways, having a winner like Isaiah Thomas at the start of our franchise set us up for the Vince Carter success in the early 2000s. And that little taste of success, well, it was nice. And we got little bits of taste of success in the Bosch era with a couple of playoff appearances, but it didn't really start taking until Kyle and DeMar showed up and started doing things in the 2010s. So yeah, Bibby, I mean, he's being honest. That team was a joke. That team didn't have a chance. That team was out-talented. That team was not being run properly from the front office financially or basketball-wise, and it was just a mess. The Grizzly Truth is an important documentary to watch as a cautionary tale about why the Grizzlies are in Memphis now compared to being in Vancouver. And yeah, that kind of stuff, in some ways, there were no guarantees that the Raptors are going to make it in Toronto, even though this is an amazing market. And in some ways, they were destined to make it, but in some ways, they could have messed it up like the Grizzlies did, and they could have gone the way of the Grizzlies. They could have. They really could have. Yeah. Yeah, Wayne's saying we view Isaiah Thomas as a really positive force in Raptors history. Nothing can detract or blemish his contribution. That's right. And that's why I say watch that Sportsnet documentary with open eyes and read between the lines. They even though Isaiah doesn't appear on it directly, he says what matters in the whole thing with what he says when he says, I emotionally couldn't pay. I couldn't financially pay the emotional payments that I needed to make to be a part of this team anymore. He cared too much, and he was hurt by it, the changes. And in some ways, the financial stuff he couldn't keep up with as an owner, and it ruined things for him as far as being in charge and running the team. It's just it all unraveled. And let's not get it twisted. There were corporate forces from the eventual MLSE formation that were pushing Isaiah out. That's just the damn truth. That's just the damn truth. Most saying, just imagine if Brendan Malone was still here, what he would have to say on the documentary. Yeah, he's somebody who got burned and pushed out too, but that was really between him and Isaiah. In some ways, that was the whole philosophy about you should be losing so we get better assets and not trying to win so much. But I applaud Brendan Malone for trying to get more wins for the Raptors early in our first year. And in some ways, I hate that he got fired after 1 year. But you know what? We can never take away the fact that he is the original Raptors coach and that is a prestige in itself. I know Michael Malone has espoused that it really hurt his dad, and his dad did have problems with Isaiah and the franchise after the way things went down. It's all documented in Alex Wong's book, Prehistoric. So yeah, it's tough. In some ways, yeah. Rest in peace, Brendan Malone, an important part of our history too. And in some ways, I love the way he treated things as an old school coach, that winning was important to him, even if it wasn't to the front office. Yeah, Mike's saying Isaiah Thomas speaks well in Toronto. He's okay, in my opinion. Yeah, he's not dumping on his legacy, and he embraces his ties, his early ties as the original president of the Raptors in a glowing way. And in some ways, he's forgotten all the ugly, bad stuff. And in some ways, he thinks about the positives and all the good things. And in some ways, that shows growth. That shows something. In some ways, that's something I've learned in the last 3 months about how to deal with Vince Carter in the same kind of way. Yeah, there's ugly stuff. There's stupid stuff that happen. There's misunderstandings. There's hurt. There's pain. And yeah, Isaiah's grown from it and he's gotten past it. And he doesn't hold a lifelong grudge against the Raptors franchise. No, he's proud of his part in it and he celebrates it. And he still speaks well of us to this day on American media airwaves when he doesn't have to. He could dump on us just like Vince did for most of the last 10 years on American airwaves, but he hasn't. He's been very consistently giving the Raptors a fair shake and even talked us up at times when everybody else was putting us down. He was one of the few people that probably saw the Raptors championship coming up when it did and believed that we could go get it, because a lot of the NBA media personalities and experts, they got blindsided by the Raptors championship in 2019. I think Isaiah understood that it was very possible, even in the years leading up to it. I know I was very aware of the possibility of the Raptors winning that year. In fact, it's documentary on the Kensington Variety VIP Club that I said the Raptors were going to win the NBA championship in February before they did that year in 2019. All right, y'all, let's go Raptors. Thank you, Isaiah, for your hard work for the Raptors early on in our history. It is appreciated by real ones like the Raptor freaks, the real fans of the Raptors. And we won't get in line with the narrative that Rogers Sportsnet is trying to put out about you right now. Nah, we ain't going to get behind this silent assassin moniker that they're giving you right now. No, it's bullshit. We know what you did, and we know you were forced out. And we appreciate you, Isaiah. So salute to you, one of the Hall of Famers, all-star greats, one of the top 100 players in the history of the NBA, Isaiah Thomas. We love you, man. And we hope you can get a chance to come back to Toronto and wave to the crowd as our first president ever. It's only right, MLSE. Bring back Isaiah and let us give him some love for his part in our history. And if it's some sort of grudge between him and ownership that's around still at this point, get over yourselves. Because Isaiah's gotten over his feelings of how things went down, and he's been very healthy about it. Why can't we as an organization also? We can forgive Vince Carter. Y'all should be able to forgive Isaiah Thomas and let him come and get his shine in our history in our 30th year. That's what I'll say about that. Boom goes the dynamite. Boom, boom, boom. Mike Sand video, CA 621. What? Is that the link? You can't put it in there. You got to put it in a comment on the page after the live chat. You're not allowed to put links in this, but you can put it in afterwards in the stream chat comments. Okay, that's where you can put it, Mike, if you can, please, or email it to me if you can't post it there. Send it in an email. You have my personal email, Mike, because I do want to see what you're talking about with this Rusty Buckets video. All right, tomorrow I'll preview the Hawks game, and also the Raptors 905 are playing in the afternoon a game also. I forget who they're playing. Who are they playing tomorrow? Let me just look at it real quick. They're playing Osceola Magic tomorrow at 2 p.m. So there's a doubleheader tomorrow for Raptors action. We'll get the Osceola Magic at Raptors 905 at Paramount at 2 p.m. And then the Raptors at 6 o'clock hosting the Atlanta Hawks. And maybe there'll be some double duty for somebody like Jamison Bowell or something. Maybe Shamshay gets double duty tomorrow. But yeah, I'll have all the pertinent information, the latest lineup news, and the referee report, as always, on the Raptor Freak channel, 9:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. Peace out. And thank you guys for listening to me. Get out there and touch snow. Because that's what's out there on the ground right now. Happy Free Can Day, Free Can Friday. Yes, Isaac, happy Free Can Friday. And more brand new episodes. Well, not brand new, but 5-year anniversary episodes of the Kensington Variety VIP Club coming out in 2025 with the New Year. So stay tuned for those. They're going to be leading into the pandemic, guys. We're going to get to the 5-year anniversary of COVID starting. And if you really want to see how the world changed at that time, in my world, you can watch the Kensington Variety VIP Club episodes coming out on the 5-year anniversaries of when they happened. And well, 2025 is the 5-year anniversary of 2020 when COVID struck. And you can see just how my life changed at that time. The show changes very drastically in the new year. And so come along on the journey with me and check out those clips. They're fun. Free Can Friday every Friday, where I'm giving free cans to customers in the convenience store for answering trivia questions. Yeah, it's crazy. Mike saying the most unlikely championship YouTube channel, Rusty Buckets. All right, thanks, Mike. All right, thanks, everybody. Thank you, Isaac, for coming in right at the end there. All right, y'all, let's go Raptors. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, and join the channel if you feel like it. It gives you access to a live chat during the game where myself, Monique, and Trevor, and many of the other Raptor freaks are commenting on the game during the game with given insight in real time. So if you value that, well, join the channel. It's not very much. You can just join for a purple membership, which is like $5 a month, and you get the access to me during the game and my insight and all that kind of stuff. All right, y'all. Thank you for watching. Have a great Saturday. Let's go Raptors. Let's go Tempo. Let's go Raptors 905. And let's go Team Canada basketball. Woo! Let's go Isaiah Thomas.